listening to the Bomb Hole.
Bomb Hole Podcast.
It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody.
The Bomb Hole.
We're gonna slide down them big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
All right, welcome back to the Bomb Hole, which is presented by Pub Beer. Now, first things first, got to ask Stoney Butts, how are we doing today?
So good, my dog.
Love that. Now, to my left, we got Michelle Parker in the booth today. Michelle, how we doing?
Feeling good.
Well, we are happy to have you here. Michelle, for our listeners that are unfamiliar with who you are, Michelle is a professional skier. She transitioned from slopestyle and halfpipe into filming video projects, video parts from Big Mountain, Powder, all that good stuff. She's also an incredible rock climber and mountain biker. One of the only athletes to be given a Red Bull helmet in other disciplines besides her main one, which is pretty incredible. She's overcame some incredible adversity and all in all, just a badass human being. So let's just jump right into it, Michelle. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lake Tahoe. I was born and raised in Truckee in Olympic Valley, now known as Palisades. And yeah, now I live in Tahoe City.
Well, what did it look like as a kid for you there? When did you start skiing and ski racing and all that stuff?
Started skiing when I was 1. Don't remember much of that. But there was a thing like all the moms in the valley, they would take their kids up and skiing at the age of 1. And then growing up there, had Mighty Mites, was super fortunate. Actually, the public school system, I don't think it was intentional on their part, but basically at noon every day, the school bus would take you from the school straight to the resort and you'd ski for your 4th period class. And that was like my youth. That's like what I knew. It wasn't like a ski school, but it was pretty awesome to be able to do that. So it kind of was, I always say I was raised by the mountains, and I know that sounds cliche, but I really do feel like my coaches, my peers, like everyone out there were the people who you surround yourself with, and that's who you become. So yeah.
That's killer.
Dude, 1 year old. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a thing in skiing. I feel like it's starting to become that way in snowboarding, which I appreciate. But young.
I watched a documentary with, I think your dad said or your mom said, if you can walk, you can ski, or something like that.
Yeah, I maybe skied before. Yeah.
That was an interesting thing. I was watching some stuff on you doing our research here, and I wondered, like, you had such a strong fundamentals. You got at a young age skiing, and I noticed you raced as a kid. Do you think that stuff helped you with fundamentals as you got older and got into the park and riding powder?
I don't know. To be honest, I raced until I was like 15 years old, and at which point it became too structured for me. I didn't really feel like I could express myself or do whatever I wanted. I had ski coaches that were ex-Olympians who, amazing people, but they didn't really like approach skiing the way that I approached it. I had one ski coach named Todd Kelly who recently passed actually, and I hope he knows how big of an influence he had. He'd be like, go ski powder. Like, don't come to the race course, go ski powder. So I stuck with it, and when he left Palisades and he went to Sugar Bowl, that's when I was like, pulled the ripcord. My coach is literally like, you're not allowed to go upside down. You're not allowed to ski with the boys. And I was like, oh, I'm out. And then I just started skiing in the park, and that was kind of the impetus for me getting into park skiing, which there was like a severe lack of women doing that at that time.
I wanted to ask, did you have freestyle ski women to look up to?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, and we had like Christy Leskinen and Sarah Burke, and then they became my peers. Yeah, air horns for both of them, and man, yeah, R.I.P. Sarah. She was such a graceful leader in our sport, and I credit her with a lot of the way that I perceived women in action sports. She was kind of a pioneer for equal pay and all of that good stuff. Such a good example. But yeah, there was those two, and there was like not very many other women, and I came into the scene kind of the same time as Greta Eliasson. And we had another air horn. Yeah, some of our OGs. And there was like all of 8 of us competing at these slopestyle courses. And actually I used to compete alongside Jamie Anderson. We would be the only 2 women in our age group. So they'd made us compete together, like against each other. And I was like, I don't really know how this works. And we'd be like, all right, whatever, let's just do this.
Some Tahoe OGs right there.
Yeah.
I can't believe your coach was like, no going upside down, no riding with boys. Like, just throwing out those rules, a lot of people would be like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, totally. That took the fun. I mean, I was kind of like, to be honest, I felt like quite bullied growing up, oftentimes by girls. And so I went full tomboy. And so my peers were all the guys. And yeah, that was my path.
I got a Patreon question for you while we're talking about your early days here. And this is from Isabella Snow Monkey. And she asked, my 12-year-old daughter wants to know, what age did you go from just ripping around to pushing yourself and your limits to progress?
That's a great question. Thank you to, was it Isabella?
Isabella Snow Monkey.
Yeah, I like that name. I think when I switched from ski racing, like ski racing definitely gave me a little bit of structure and like reaching goals and wanting to ski really well. And it gave me the fundamentals and the technical ability to go into my career later as a big mountain skier. But when I started skiing in slopestyle, like I hadn't even learned a 360 yet. And I went to the US Open and actually this dude saw me skiing around at Palisades with a braid, and he was like, I thought you were a guy. And then I saw the braid and you're a girl, and he gave me his business card, and it was Jason Leventhal, the owner at that time of Line Skis, and he kind of was like, you should come compete in slopestyle. Like I was hitting rails and stuff, and I was like, okay, like sure, I'll do that. Showed up, saw girls doing 360s, and was like, whoa, if you see it, you can believe you can do it. And that was like probably when I started pushing it. I was like 15, 16.
Yeah, 15, that was the age.
Yeah.
Awesome. I kind of want to just do a quick change gears for a second here. And in the intro, I mentioned that, you just mentioned that you were raised by the mountains. I think that's really cool. Like you grew up in Tahoe, you're around, there's big, in the summer, you got mountains to rock climb, mountain bike, winter, you got mountains to, snowboard, ski on, what have you. And I was talking to your significant other, Blatt, and he likened it to, he's like, have you ever, you go to Hawaii and there's watermen, people that are in the ocean and they don't just surf, they, all kinds of ocean activities, whatever you can do in the ocean, they know their way around the ocean. And I thought that was a great comparison for you because you are a person who in the mountains, you know how to ski, you know how to ride park, big mountain, snow, you know how to snowboard, and you have a, such a skill set in rock climbing and mountain biking that Red Bull was like, wear the Red Bull helmet while you do these things. I don't know. Do you want to elaborate on the off the snow stuff a little bit?
Yeah, I think growing up in Tahoe, it is such a beautiful outdoorsy space. And I was a team sports kid, though. I played soccer. I wanted, like, my biggest hero was Mia Hamm. That's who I looked up to. I was like, I'm going to be on the U.S. soccer team, like, for sure. Was going full throttle in that direction. Played on the Nevada State team, the California State team. And then my soccer coach actually gave me a little, what do you call it? He's like, basically you can choose between skiing and soccer.
Oh, ultimatum.
An ultimatum, yeah. And I was like, well, all right, I'm going to go be a skier then. And went down that path. And I think skiing, once I stopped racing, like opened up my friend group and like kind of like out of high school, actually, that was the first time I like started rock climbing and mountain biking and exploring what Tahoe really had to offer. And I was like, whoa, I lived here my whole life and I didn't know about like the rock climbing and just being in the mountains like that. And yeah, so it's such a wonderful playground. I feel really privileged to live there.
How'd the soccer coach take that?
I don't know. We were just chatting
like,
about
peace.
that. Yeah, like you just are going to do the opposite of what people tell you to do at that age for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you want me to play soccer? Well, guess what? I'm not going to play soccer.
Yeah, exactly. And growing up there too, you're surrounded by so many incredible athletes, like for sure on the ski side of things, but then like you guys should know, like I was a freshman when like Josh Feliciano and Ricky Gotterdam were the seniors.
Nice.
Yeah, air horns for them. And
you went to school with those guys, huh?
Yeah.
Maniacs.
Totally. Josh won the Triple Crown. Like he was like buying the limo for prom. Here's the rental house. Like, so those guys, like I had them to look up to. And Ricky's like an incredible skier too. But watching them in the park, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like that's how you do it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Josh was making good money back then.
Good money. Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool stuff to talk about. And I know we'll go back we're kind of out of order here, but going, you talked about rock climbing there for a second, and you showed us a photo earlier about going, the print you showed us that you brought us for the office, and you're going up this like really steep couloir and you're boot packing up in those bear traps of boots you guys use. And then, and I just wonder, like navigating around the mountains, do you notice that rock climbing kind of helps you navigate the kind of more technical big mountain stuff?
Yes, 100%. Rock climbing, specifically like the genre of rock climbing that I got into in Tahoe was trad climbing. So you're placing your own gear and you're climbing above it when you're leading. And that builds like trust in yourself and confidence building. Like it's scary to fall on your gear. And so for me, that just made me like, way more comfortable in exposure and pushing my limits, I think. And also there's like a huge skill set that goes with that too. Like, I don't know, you kind of got to know a little bit about ice climbing and how to get yourself out of these situations if you're stuck or whatever.
You know what might help you out in the winter is if you rock climb with your ski boots on in the summer. You know what I mean?
Totally. That's actually true.
A little cross training.
Yeah.
Is she wearing ski boots in the climbing gym?
Yes.
Can we talk about the ski boots for a second?
Yeah, how have they not progressed?
Those things are some. I wore those like what was that last winter?
last
When you backflip with Jossie.
I did a backflip, and I was walking around. I don't even know. I could barely walk up the hill, and it was low angle. I don't know how the hell you wear those
When
things.
you watch those people going like sideways and backwards downstairs and stuff, you're just like, what is going on?
Fair. Yeah, they're uncomfortable. You just have to get them custom fitted.
Okay.
But like, I'm going to go Mythbusters on this. Like my snowboard boots, I've had moments in those where I'm like out on a big tour and like I'm taking these things off. They're too uncomfortable.
Really?
Yeah.
So
now I go
heat mold them?
custom.
Yeah.
Now
you
I
heat
do.
mold them. Pro
Yeah.
tip. Yeah, I remember. Also, I noticed like those ski boots, they don't plane on top of the snow as much. I was post holing every step.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like, if you don't have your, and
Just go right through.
yeah, totally. But you know what I will say, you guys have us beat in is touring. You know, like it's so convenient. You guys just rip off your skins at the top of the hill and click in, and they're going down where we're like fumbling around trying to change the bindings. It takes us. You get sick of waiting for snowboarders when it's time to switch over.
No, I love it. I love taking I'm not in a rush out there. Like, especially like I tour with like, I don't know, Jeremy Jones is like such an example of someone that comes to mind. Like he moves slow in the mountains and like he appreciates that. And I appreciate that. I like a good skin track conversation.
So you're not a ski mower, then I'm guessing.
No.
Those guys
those
do
aggressive
not
guys.
move slow.
No.
That is an aggressive technique.
When
They're
they're
fast.
behind you, like hitting you a little bit almost.
Oh my
It's like,
God.
fine, I'll
That's a
move.
no. You can't do that on the skin track. I can turn it on if I need to, but I really appreciate the slower pace.
Yeah.
Can you put snowshoes on boots or just verts work and that's it?
We have like I guess it would be the skier version of that, and they're like billy goat plates, or there's different versions, but I have
okay.
basically like a steel plate that connects via a crampon. So you have like a sharp front point, which means you can climb on ice, which is great.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
We're learning.
It's basically like wearing 2 cinder blocks on your feet all around the mountain. It's really great.
I'm surprised they don't make ski boots out of cement. I mean, why
Might
not?
as well.
Yeah, who knows?
Funny thing, actually, they don't make ski boots in my size.
Really?
I've my entire career skied with too big of with like the flex that I need. So someone out there needs to do
Well, you're
this.
just wearing like kids' boots?
No, because they don't come up high enough on my shin. So I've always
Oh.
been swimming in this like big boot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've got things to work
We
on.
got to get them to get it together, ski boot companies. Okay, well let's go back to the kind of the trajectory of your career. So kind of left off talking about how you found some progression in skiing, learning 360s and stuff, and where did it go from there? How did you get sponsored?
Yeah, it got sponsored. Was totally like I said, I was skiing around, had the braid. This dude came up. He was like, "Here's a card. We want to support you." I was like, "Whoa, this is like a viable thing," because there wasn't women that came before me that were that I was seeing that often. Like there wasn't enough media of it where I thought that it was a viable career choice. Like I really didn't think so. So I was like, "Okay, I'll try this out." And I was in high school. I was like 15, 16 age group, and then like X Games came and we got invited to the first ever X Games, and that was like our sport was blossoming kind of, and I was like, all right, I'll like do this and see how far it takes me. And then out of college, out of high school, I was like, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to like take a year. I was competing. I was like, it became like a viable career a little bit. My dad was fully supportive. My parents never once asked me like, are you sure about this? Like, I was like, I'm not going to go to college. They're like, totally, do you.
Air horn for that.
Yeah, the most supportive people. That was really cool. I always question that. I'm like, Dad, you never thought twice. And he's like, no, it just worked out. So it was like 3 years after high school, and I really realized I wasn't going to go to college. Like this was my career path. And yeah, they were super supportive. Old ski race coaches weren't so supportive. They'd always hit me up and be like, when are you going to get a real job? And I'm like, man, why are you guys like riding me like this? And then that kept happening year after year. And then I think I bought my first house when I was 21, and she asked me again. She's like, when are you going to get a real job? And I was like, I don't know. Just bought my house here in Tahoe. Like, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know if I need to get a real job.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's the best that motivation to prove people wrong can be a very powerful thing too.
Yeah, I honestly credit that, like, the need, the feel, the desire to prove people that, like, I can do it too. I think a part of that comes with being a female in a really heavily male-dominated space, but, like, all the hate, all the people asking questions like that, the doubt, like, that just was fuel to my fire. I never let it affect me in, like, a really negative way. Like, sure, I could get down about it, but then I was like, I'll show you.
Totally. Yeah. That's really powerful thing, I think, to talk about too, because I don't know what that's like. I'm a dude, but I think that, what I'm hearing is that people are saying, we underestimate you, and I think for women in both snowboarding and skiing, it's a common thing. Like we underestimate what you can do. And it's a kind of an interesting one, because I almost relate it to, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring it back to Tom Brady. I'm a huge fan, but he's older now. And he's like, I was listening to this thing with him, and he's like, I don't want people to be in my corner. He's like, tell me I'm too old. Tell me I don't have it. Tell me I'm too slow. Tell me. And it's like, he takes that underestimation, and like that, what you're saying is it could be a big downer for a lot of people. And you're saying, take that and turn it into motivation, just like my boy TB12 does. And I love that.
Yeah, it was fuel to my fire. I mean, growing up too, like I said, I played a bunch of team sports, like, and I was a tomboy, right? Like, hair cut up to here and like above my ears for the listeners. But I played baseball. My dad put me on the baseball team. The other team, they didn't know there was a girl on the team. My name was Mac. And like, that was my thing. I didn't know any differently between men and women. And so I think, like, having that, like, the first time I realized that there was, like, a difference was when I was in the ski industry, and I was like, oh, we're being treated differently. Like, whether that's unequal pay or the approach to contest or whatever that may be, the lack of opportunity, like, hell yeah, I want to prove people wrong. And I love doing that on the bike trail too.
Getting mopping them up. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's so fun. I try to be graceful about it, but there's something in me. Yeah.
That's got to be fun. Yeah, I love seeing that. And, like, sorry to bring it back to your significant other, but Blatz, dude, he blows me away. You two together must just be flying down the trail.
It's so fun. Yeah, that's kind of like, I was climbing a lot more, and then I met Aaron, and like his passion for biking, definitely I caught that. And yeah, that's what we do. It's so fun.
Love that. Yeah, I kind of want to just stay on this the topic of where you're just were at too, because it's really important. I think it's really important to shed light on the fact that you didn't have really people to look up to in free skiing. And, there was no bar set for equal pay and equal opportunities, and women were not treated with oftentimes, as much as this sucks to say, the same amount of respect as men. And I just want to say I admire the way you particularly are breaking down those barriers. And now there's a 10-year-old girl that's coming up and gets to look up and say, oh, I want to be like Michelle when I grow up. And I just think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you look at like the scientific reasonings behind that too. I just learned about this. So like with spatial awareness, like men have multiple parts in their brain where they can deal with spatial awareness. So like if you're like, oh, this beer will fit in this mug, like you have that ability a lot more. I think women don't have that space in the brain that they're like processing that information. So like for us, when that is applied to athletics, like we really need to see it to believe it. And I've always said that, but I didn't know that there was like, there's like scientific reasoning behind that. If we see someone do something, like I believe that I can do it, specifically if it's a woman. I'm like, oh, yep, we got this.
That makes sense. I mean, even in sports, you look at surfing, like before nobody was doing 360s.
Yeah.
Somebody does one, and now it's the norm. Soon it'll be kickflips and who knows what. You know what I mean? It's
the most prevalent example of that's the 4-minute mile. It was deemed undoable. It was deemed impossible.
Yeah.
And then somebody did the 4-minute mile, and then literally everybody just the floodgates were open.
Oh, it can be done. I'm in.
Yeah. So cool. But we need to like.
I never heard that scientific stuff. That's cool.
Super interesting, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty involved with like the mountain bike, the women's on the mountain bike side of things. Like I help run this event called Formation, which is basically like Rampage. It's the training ground to hopefully be in Rampage eventually. And man, that is the fastest I've seen a sport develop. In 3 years, you're like, whoa, holy shit, like jaw dropping. They're excelling. It's amazing.
Things that no one ever thought possible.
Totally. Yeah.
So what about the first woman that actually steps up and does these things? They just don't have that same spatial awareness issue?
I mean, I think you still have it, but you just work through it.
Yeah,
and
they're just
figure
ready.
It out.
I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, because growing up, like,
or they're sick of being told they can't, and they do it.
Totally,
and there it
out of
is.
spite, like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Love
I'm
that.
gonna do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't do this. Oh, I can't.
Oh, I
I'll
can?
show
Let's
you.
go.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I was listening to a podcast, and I thought it was really interesting how you mentioned that you kind of have different, I'll call it personalities for different circumstances. Do you want to get into that at all?
Multiple personalities. Yeah, totally. It's interesting. So, well, I guess a little backstory on that. Like, I was filming with Matchstick for 12 years. You said it. I don't know. You did the research. Like, I have no. It's been a long time. And I kind of wanted to break off and do my own thing. So I started producing Originate, which is a series that I have with Red Bull, and we've done 3 series. The third one's yet to be released, but be on the lookout. And throughout that time, like, I overloaded my plate. I had too much shit going on. I realized that my skiing was suffering because I wasn't mentally there. I was like too busy. But like it brought me down. Like, to be honest, I was like in my lowest times, if you will. And so I started seeing a therapist, and really it was in line with like, I want this to be like sports therapy, but for me to excel at my sport, like, I have to have my mental side in line. And so, this was my wonderful therapist, one of her ideas, and this is common, like in basketball, there's someone who does it, but she's like, all right, you got to have these different personalities, and I want you to like draw a picture of them, like write out their characteristics, like be very specific so that when you're standing on top of that line, you can channel that person. So, Athena is kind of like this warrior goddess who, like, that's who I am when I'm dropping in, and she's got flaming balls of fire and like a invisible force field, and like I just channel her energy, and she is so confident, and that's like, I'm like, all right, I'm dropping in with the warrior mindset. That's that personality. Then we have like the business personality, like who do I want to be when I'm showing up in these business meetings, and that's like this boss woman. You've got to like channel that and be a graceful leader and bring everyone up with you, and so that's that.
What's the lady boss's name?
I think I just called her Boss.
Boss.
Yeah.
BAWS.
Yeah, Boss. And then who else did I have? I have, I don't know why, no offense to anyone named Stephanie, but there's this little worrier in everyone, and it's a part of you, and you've got to accept it and be like, yo, like Stephanie's the worry warrior who's like, I don't know, the cliff looks too big, or like, it's too flat, whatever. So when Stephanie shows up, I'm just like, yo, Stephanie, I love you. You're a part of me, but you're like not welcome in this space right now, and I'm going to like let you to the side and channel back with Athena. And that's actually been really helpful. It's a fun way to like get into the zone.
Yeah, to get in the zone and get rid of the issues, and that's cool. Make it happen.
Yeah, I think I could be mistaken about this, but I believe the basketball player you're thinking of is Magic Johnson, and his real name's Irvin Johnson. And when he was on the court, he kind of took that persona Magic. But that's really powerful to say, you know, kind of, it's like gives you permission to click into this mode. Like, okay, I'm not this person right now. I'm Magic, or I'm what was it?
Athena. Yeah,
Athena.
the warrior. Hell yeah.
Dude, I assumed his first name was Magic. That's crazy.
Yeah, same here.
cool.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
But it works.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to like really, if you think about like, what does she wear? What does she act like? Like, what are all her characteristics? Like, and you get specific about it, you can channel that person.
You try to like channel her and become her for that moment.
Totally. And then when you're going into a negotiation or something, you're like, okay, how do I want to show up on this call? Like, I take a moment before the call to get yourself in the right headspace.
Into that headspace.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now I have a question to ask you, because this is while we're on the lines of this. Like, personally, I've experienced this when, you know, let's say you build a giant cheese wedge, or you're about to drop into a line and you're scared shitless. Cheese wedge is a good example because everybody's hitting a jump. It's big. Sometimes, you know, everybody's kind of spooked usually when you're up there a little bit, you know. And there's times when I was younger where I was kind of like in my head where I'm like, I'm freaking scared right now, but I'd be like, this thing looks chill. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Do you ever do the kind of, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but like, just kind of like pretend like everything's okay, but you're scared inside?
I think you have to, right?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta like, yeah, I'm doing this. And then you start telling yourself you're confident, you act like it, you're gonna do it. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it.
Yes.
Yeah. So for sure that helps.
And
Totally.
The media's down there like, yeah, it's mellow, dude. Don't worry.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well,
chirping down there for sure. That's happened a lot.
No worries.
There's also, I found this is an interesting sidebar topic, is like when you're like, should I hit the jump? Maybe I'll hit it. I don't know if that indecision is a lot more torturous than I'm going to hit the jump.
Yeah.
That weird space of maybe I will, maybe I won't is so much more tormenting than like, yeah, I'm just going to hit this. Do you ever have any relatability on that?
I think so too, and especially when hitting jumps like that's or a street rail or something like that. Like, you just got to commit to it. And commitment is like, if you're committed, you're probably not going to get hurt. It's when you flail in the in between space that you get hurt. But when it comes to like the bigger mountains, like that in between space, like I sit with that and I think about it and I try to separate like an actual fear of like, okay, the snowpack's maybe not as solid as I thought it's going to be, or whatever that may be if I'm not feeling it, with like the made up fear that Stephanie, my other personality, would come in and be like, I don't know, it's icy down there, whatever. Right. So like separating that is a skill set, but it is so powerful to be like, nope, I'm walking out. I try to practice that because saying no is harder than saying yes, I think, in the mountains. And that is a really like the main thing is we all got to come home. And so that's, for me, no is a powerful word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's your highest value, is making it back to the truck safe.
Yeah.
So you can make decisions based on that. Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. Now, going back to your career, so you were doing contests, you were doing pretty well in those, you got sponsored. Do you want to talk about the contest side versus the filming side, or what the draws were?
Totally. Yeah, so I guess skiing to me was always my biggest passion. I left racing. I didn't really want to compete. Competing was the avenue that I found easiest to get sponsors and build your name up or whatever. So I kind of went in that direction with slopestyle and halfpipe, primarily slopestyle. But I realized when we were out there, I was like, oh man, like we're all competing against each other. And it was also that time, right? Society, like in our action sports world, one female per sponsor, like that innately made you a little bit competitive against each other. And I didn't like that. So that's kind of when I was like, I'm going to bow down and like walk away from this. I was really psyched. I was doing really well, but it just didn't sit right with me. So competing to me, you're competing against other people, and then filming, all of a sudden, you're just competing against yourself and your team. And that like relationship in the mountains is like really deep. And it's like, specifically with what I do, like if we're all out together, like you guys are my lifeline and I'm yours. So there's this really like deep bond that happens. And that was always a lot more attractive to me with something that I'm so passionate about. I never wanted to take the fun out of skiing, and like probably filming was my avenue to continue that. I am a really competitive person. Like my dad was a pro tennis player, and I just have that in me too. He loves betting, and he's just like, I'm super competitive with him actually specifically. But yeah, filming was a way for me to be competitive with myself and try to be the best version of myself, but also like kind of create community around me. And I really liked that avenue.
Amazing. I think, couple things there that you breezed over. You mentioned your dad was a professional tennis player. Did that shift or help mold you to who you are, maybe self-discipline wise or in pursuit of your goals?
Yeah, I think that's part of why he was always so supportive of me doing whatever it was. Like there's been basically one time in my career where I almost walked away, and it was after sitting in the hospital watching a super close friend of mine go through a traumatic brain injury. And I sat there with him for 33 days and 4 brain surgeries throughout that process. And at the end of that, I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is crazy. My family has lost my older brother before I was born. So knowing that and knowing how dangerous, like, I mean, big mountain skiing, like we've lost so many legends in our sport. I don't think, other than base jumping, there's many sports that compare with that to the mountains, right? And it scared me. And I saw what the family went through, and I like knew what I went through, and I was like, called my dad and I was like, I'm done. Like I was lining up jobs for myself. I was out, and he was the only person that was like, no, you're not. Like sit on this, think about it, like don't quit. And in a moment where I thought maybe it would be an easy way for him to be like, great, like we're done with that. Like you're walking away from this thing that's super dangerous. And I think for me, like, I would never want to put my parents through that again. So that's been always top of mind my whole life. Like, I can't die in the mountains. I don't want to die out there, like, straight up. And, yeah, so I think he has always been super supportive of me following my passion. And, like, it's crazy. He's the most positive person. He's one of my best friends for sure. I love being around him, and his support is fully, like, why I'm doing it the way I do, why I've recovered from injuries, like, his whole perspective. So yeah, I think But, you know, we say tennis and I think of like white skirts and like, I don't know, like the dress code to the tennis club. And my dad had like pretty big hair and a hairy face and was like kind of the Andre Agassi style a little bit more, like a little bit looser. So he always liked to have fun. He was never one to stick in his lane. And I think I got that from him too.
I think tennis is a sick sport.
It's so fun.
It's so
Remember
gassed.
McEnroe always swearing at everybody?
Yeah.
That dude was so sick.
Totally. And that was like my dad's era. Like he did the Australian Open and then he switched over and started coaching tennis and operated a huge tennis operation in Florida for 10 years. And then my brother Michael passed away in Florida and I was named after him. And basically they moved to Tahoe in 86 and I was born in 87. So yeah, my mom and dad both grew up in California. They always knew that they wanted to be in Tahoe, I think, from a very young age. And I'm really lucky and privileged that they made it back there.
If you don't mind me asking, how did your brother pass away?
He passed away. He was in the middle back seat of the car, and then my cousin Corvette was middle left. My mom was driving, and my older brother Johnny was in the front seat, and it was probably a 16-year-old gal got out of control on the highway and like hit the median, the like center. It's like a jump essentially, and she aired her car and landed on top of my mom's car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty heavy.
Sad.
Kind of a trip too, like. I've always thought of Michael as being like my guardian angel, if you will.
Yeah.
Like I'm not super religious. I'm not religious at all or anything, but like I'm like he's looking out for me. Like I feel that when I'm out
100%.
there. Yeah.
I believe that
100%.
for sure.
Yeah.
How old was he?
Maybe 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tragic.
Yeah.
I believe
tragic.
100% in the guardian angel thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real deal. You know, going back to the documentary, I think it was one of your projects. Can't remember which one, doing research again. And I thought your dad said something that is so simple and so many parents could take a page out of because I don't think they have this set up straight, but it's just fundamentally as simple as you can put it. And I think you're a product of it. But he said, I think it's important for Michelle, this isn't verbatim, but be a good person first and a good skier second. And I think far too often we see parents with their priorities being the opposite.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a really, really, like good person first, good skier second. Simple bit of advice, but very profound.
Totally. And he like taught me that in ways that like I would later learn from, but at the time it felt really difficult. Like playing baseball, he was the coach of all of my teams or whatever, and like I made all-stars. I was like, holy shit, like I'm the girl on the team and I made all-stars. This rules. Dad cut me. Like, no, you're not going. I was going on a family vacation with my mom. We did it every summer. And he's like, you're going to miss that practice. You can't be on the team. And I'd be like, choked. Like, what? I was so choked. But like, he taught me, like, you got to show up. You got to be present. And like, just because you're daddy's little girl on the baseball team doesn't mean you're going to All-Stars. Still kind of choked about that one though, Dad. To be honest.
He couldn't give you special treatment though, you know?
No, he definitely didn't. I remember like learning how to dodge.
Yeah, he probably made it harder, right?
Oh yeah, he picked on me like when we went from like the pitching machine to like an actual pitcher. Like he would sit out there and throw balls at my like body, like when I was like up to bat. Yeah, and I would just turn my back, and I kept taking these hits. It happened like 3 times in a row, and finally I'm like, "What up, Dad? Like stop throwing balls at me." And he's like, "You got to learn how to duck or get out the way." And I'm like, "You're literally just throwing baseballs at me." Like,
That's
actually
it's a
trying
scene
to
in
hit you.
Happy Gilmore.
Totally.
Yeah. Only 364 days till next year's hockey tryouts.
yeah,
Happy Gilmore did that. He went to the batting cages and took balls to the body.
yeah.
It's basically good to know you had a Happy Gilmore style childhood. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, but it was never tough love, to be honest. Like he really instilled in me sportsmanship and being good to people, and that was passed on from his family. Like his mother, they have a crazy family history. Like it starts in Georgia and goes to China and comes over to the US, but she just had this really beautiful approach to like bringing people into their home. They would have these parties that would last for a week long. They'd station the local sheriff at the entryway to the like house that they grew up in, and my dad was 8 years old, and she would bring people in off the streets to live with them and like put them back out there when they had a stable job and they could do the thing, but they'd have 300 people there all the time, and just open door policy. Like, doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, like what you're into, you're welcome. And my dad instilled that in me too. And
Where was that at?
That was down in Palo Alto. Wow. Back in the day.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I could hang at a week-long party, but
And she would cook for everybody.
really,
Yeah, and they weren't like well-to-do. She just was like, no, this is how we roll. We
Yeah.
like invite everyone and everyone.
everyone's invited.
Yeah, totally.
That is amazing.
Yeah, like my dad learned how to gamble when he was 8 years old. 8 years
Yeah,
old
that
from
kind of
Billsby.
environment, right?
Yeah, they brought Billsby in from the street, and he like taught my dad how to play blackjack, and
Billsby was just a dude from the streets.
totally. But 8 years old, and my dad would come downstairs, like his sisters would wake him up in the middle of the night and be like, "We've got some people, you got to beat them at chess," or whatever it was. Like,
Yeah.
he'd come down and smoke them and win money off the college
And
kids.
Billsby was just as welcome as the well-to-do
I
person.
think
and-
Billsby lived there for 5 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is epic.
Let's give Billsby an air horn.
Yeah, Billsby.
Yeah. And my grandma.
And that
she-
was your grandmother that did that, had
Yeah.
that mentality.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's a good time to get into a guest question from one of the biggest bosses on planet Earth, Kimmy Fasani. Here
Yes.
Hi, Michelle and Bombhole. I'm a huge fan. Michelle, can you share some insight on how you've navigated majority of your career filming with a male-dominant film crew? Very excited to hear this episode. Thanks.
Can we get some air horns for Kimmy?
Yeah, I think
Like
we should do the
triple,
super-
quadruple,
let's do the
yeah.
super air horn.
Yes. All the
It's
love.
like we're at a Diplo show right now.
Yeah, she got
Yeah.
the trifecta there.
Yeah, trifecta.
Yeah, thanks, Kimmy. I think part of that is seeing people like her do the same thing for sure, and knowing that there's others out there that are doing it. I think, for the majority of my career, I was surrounded by guys. And I think when I was younger, I also was a product of my environment, a little bit competitive. Like it felt threatening almost when another girl came on the team. And I had to work through that because I realized that that wasn't healthy. And that was part of me leaving behind competition because I just wanted to go and ski with these women and the other snowboarder women too. And it wasn't until like I was on a matchstick trip in Alaska, all guys. There was 4 athletes. It's kind of hard to film up there with 4 athletes. You don't often land in a spot where you're like, oh, there's 4 clear lines. And I realized that like my warm-up line would probably have like maybe a small error or something, but it maybe wouldn't make the movie. The line that I actually wanted to ski would be one of the guys' warm-up lines. And I was like, man, I'm just not progressing. And I'm not like in a space where I feel empowered to progress. I felt like my voice didn't matter as much, but it probably mattered equally as much. I was like a little bit more passive, wasn't using it as much. It was intimidating. You're with a bunch of guys. You work differently than guys. Like women communicate differently. There's all different things, right? And on that same year, I organized with Lexi DuPont and Tatum Minode a women's trip. And so they showed up to Haines. Yeah, and we went out together in the mountains, and I felt incredibly empowered. They were asking me for advice. I had a lot of experience. We were feeding off of each other. Like I would ask them for advice. It felt like this equal playing field, and my level of progression in that one singular trip like skyrocketed. And I realized that like I needed to surround myself in the mountains with other women. And if you see it, you can believe it. I keep going back to that, but like that really made me level up, and it made me appreciate these other women and their different paths to it and how we could progress together. Like I loved that shit. So I think like once I started getting that more, as a regular thing, which was hard in the beginning, I'd ask Matchstick all the time. I'd be like, can I go on a trip with Ingrid Backstrom? She's my hero. Air horns for her. And they'd be like, oh, one's enough. Like I heard that so often. And so
One's enough.
One's enough.
yeah, totally. And again, fuel for your fire. Like, all right, I'll show you. Like one isn't enough. And so I guess now that is like top of mind when I enter a season. Like I want to be around a bunch of women. I want to come together. I want to like see how they do it. I want to inspire them and be inspired by them. Like that's the way forward. Like, yeah, a rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Mm-hmm. And Haines can be a scary place too. You want to be comfortable.
Totally. It's a really intimidating space.
Yeah.
It's a really emotional space. You're like, you go from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, your confidence level starts so high, and then you get out there, and you're just like, I don't know, man. I need
Humbling.
to pull back a little bit.
Totally. Yeah.
And I'm just speaking from media side. I can't even imagine your side,
Yeah, it's intimidating.
Now, speaking on the topic of, where we can be better in, both snowboarding and skiing, because they're pretty related as far as women's representation and stuff like that. Like, where as an industry can we be better?
I think that, well, I'll start by saying this. I think that women are inherently less likely to speak up and to know their worth and ask for what they're worth. So the first piece of advice that I give to women is take initiative. Use your voice. Know what you're worth. Don't take free skis and post about them like you're worth money if you're going to pursue this career. So yeah, take initiative. Even like when I started Originate, I was like, there's not enough media centering women. There's not enough productions ran by women. Like, I want to go do that. So I approached Red Bull and they said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then they're like, here's the torch, run with it. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I've got this torch now. I don't know what to do. I had to learn. But that was beautiful. And now I understand production and I've gotten this whole other side of experience to like fall back on. But I think as an industry, like, first of all, don't make assumptions for sure. But if you do, you can talk shit on me because it'll just fire me up. But yeah, I think like giving women the opportunity, being inclusive, like snowboard films, ski films, like having more women in them. Like you don't do the one's enough thing. Like bring them in. If you're an athlete, bring them in. Be open. Be inclusive. Like I think us as an industry, and I'll just loop skiing and snowboarding in together right now, we have this really. The path forward is to be inclusive to everyone, and I'm saying this on behalf of women, people of color, differently abled individuals, like all of us, trans women, trans people, like any gender, it doesn't matter. Like we need to be more open as a whole to all of that. Like I'm not going to sit here and be a feminist for women. Like I'm speaking of all of that stuff, right? I think that it's our job as athletes to like set that tone too. Companies listen to us, like speak up, use your voice. Like how can you be a good ally? Like just change the way you think about it. Maybe you don't necessarily connect with that person, but fucking bring them out there. Like give them a chance. Someone gave me a chance. I'm so thankful for that. It was a bunch of guys for sure. I was out there like, I felt like such a dead weight on the back, like at my 2003 RMK Polaris and Whistler. Like, what the hell am I doing out here? Like we can say, like, companies can put out that message right now. Like, snowboarding and skiing as a whole can put that message out, but that starts with us individually. And I think if we're not being inclusive with each other, like, that's got to stop. Mm-hmm. Like, talk about bad trends.
Totally.
Yeah. I was watching a bunch of the Pink Dollar Posse edits. Yeah. And that's like, look how far snowboarding has come. Like,
totally.
Those edits are awesome. The music's awesome. The vibe's awesome, and it's incredible. Years ago, that wouldn't have been around, and now it's come full circle, and or not totally. Full circle. It's progressed, and it's an awesome thing.
Yeah, like so much love for Jess Camara too. Like just being like, yeah, this is how I'm gonna use my privilege. That is this shit. Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Yeah, and including all the women and paying for them to go on the trips. Like that's incredible.
You know, interesting, thinking about it on a bigger picture, when I really like zoom out a little bit and think about it, as you were talking, I was just thinking about this, is, you know, we tend to compartmentalize certain parts of skiing, snowboarding. We're all just fucking snowboarders.
Yeah.
We're all just fucking skiers and just have each other's backs.
Yeah, we just love winter sports.
You know, like
totally.
Simply put, it's not, nobody's taking food off anybody else's plate. Just back even though they're different than what you're doing or they look different than you, doesn't mean you don't have to still back them, you know? And like, I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else, but
it makes sense in my head.
Well, why do we do this? Like at the end of the day, it's just to have fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, and why? Like, don't hate on people. Like, if they're having fun, fuck yeah, do it.
Yep.
I love that shit.
Yep.
And they're getting out there, they're enjoying the mountains, and it's
totally.
a great thing,
if they're new, that's awesome. If
Yeah.
they're new, go help them.
Yeah.
Teach them how to carry their skis or whatever. Don't rag on them.
True.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Although you had a funny way about your skiing. Just kidding.
Was he carrying his skis funny?
No, that was like my favorite thing ever. I loved that.
Yeah.
I like when I was watching him, he'd just be standing there, not moving, and fall over.
So ski boots.
I couldn't actually ski down the hill, but once I made it to the jump, I could do a flip, which was good stuff. You know, earlier, I don't know if I'm putting Kimmy on blast or I'm putting you on blast, but I was talking to Kimmy, and she mentioned a really funny story about you guys climbing Mount Whitney.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to just talk about that?
That was so cool. Yeah. It was Kimmy, myself, and our friend Hannah, Hannah was probably the strongest climber of the three of us. And Kimmy kind of let me in on this thing that's like, if you can go door to door from Mammoth to the top of Whitney, climbing it, that's kind of the thing to do. It's like a little bit of an endurance mission. So we're looking at the weather and it's like 50% chance of snowfall. And we're like, nah, what are the chances? Like 50%, like we're fine. It's the tallest peak in California. Like, of course, if it's going to snow, it's going to snow there. So we leave our house. Maybe it was like midnight or 12 or 11:30 to like set out on our 24-hour mission. And we hiked all night, got up there to the base of it. It's beautiful. The sunrise is going off. We start climbing. We're soloing a lot of it. We went the East Buttress, which is maybe like 5'6", 5'7". And we get to like 3/4 of the way up and it just starts snowing, like really snowing. And the rock gets all iced over and we were pretty prepared. I remember actually before we left all of their, like, I was single at the time, but the boyfriends were like, are you guys sure you want to do this? And we're like, yeah, of course. We're going to go out there and prove to you we're going to do it. And they're like, well, we probably wouldn't do it. Like, it's going to snow. And so, yeah, we're midway up there and the rock's icing over and we get a little off route into what's called an off-width pitch. So there's no real good handholds. You're like jamming your body in between like a crack that's like too big to, it's just awkward climbing. Some people love it. It's quite frustrating if you're not good at it. So we're in this place of like, oh shit, we're off route now. It's iced over. Like we can't place any gear. And Hannah climbs up ahead of us. I think I gave her a little alpine like lift. I like put her feet on my shoulders and boosted her up there so she could reach the hold. And we were like close to epicing, but we like climbed through and made it to the top and then got lost on the way down and like made it back in 24 hours though. It was a mission accomplished. But yeah, I think for us, like, again, being out there with each other as women in the mountains, kind of like, yeah, it's just confidence building when you don't have a guy to rely on and you're doing it on your own and you're like feeding off each other and empowering each other. Like those are such good moments. I loved that. And Kimmy's one of my favorite adventure partners ever.
I also heard there's maybe a story about somebody taking a dump.
Did she bring that up? I was leaving that part out.
She was okay with. She said.
I was wondering. I was like, what's on blast about this conversation?
Quote, you can throw me under the bus, is what you said.
Yeah, that's a thing in climbing. Like you're on the wall, you got to take a shit, you got to do it. And Kimmy's like, I kind of got to take a shit. And I'm like, okay. All right, this is going to be a bonding moment for us. So, like, takes her little bag over and, like, you're in the harness, it's all awkward. You're on the side of a cliff, taking a shit right next to your friend. And then, yeah.
That's
so
how it goes down, huh?
The thing's just swinging back and forth the rest of the thing in the back of the bag? Or
you don't leave any trace. So, you carry
no
your poop with you. Yeah.
Wow.
I'd just probably go diapers on them.
Yeah, Bud's adult diaper. Bud's would have about 5 or 6 of those bags swinging in the back of his bag.
That's good.
It's getting wafts. We'd be getting some crazy wafts if you're behind Buds. That is a bonding moment.
That is a bonding moment.
You know, you can't trust anybody that doesn't have a good shit story.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that. I don't know where I heard that.
That's Matthew McConaughey quote.
Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And he's a wise human being.
Obviously.
I think it would be cool to maybe lean into some kind of injury talk because I know you've had some big ones.
Yeah, totally. I felt invincible until I blew my knee. I was like 18 years old and at the European Open, actually had, with each and every single one of my injuries, I've had quite a heavy intuition going into that day to the extent of like speaking up about it. Like on this day, I asked the event organizers if we could have a weather day. It was snowing out and it was icy. And sure enough, case the jump, blew my ACL. I was like, damn it, I knew. But it's a contest. You can't like back out of your contest that your sponsor supports. Like, so that was the first one. ACL actually was really quite easy to come back from. I felt like you can come back way stronger from the ACL injury if you follow your PT and do the work. And then it was like maybe 3 or 4 years later, I think I had basically just purchased my house, as I mentioned, like at the age of 21. And I was out filming with Matchstick. It was the end of a 2-week trip and I was exhausted. I had been skiing a ton and it was epic powder day. We were at Retallick and I was like, I'm going to sit today out. Like, I'm just too tired. And I think it was a photographer who was like, let's just go out and shoot pow turns. I'm like, okay, I can go shoot pow turns, but I don't really want to like stand on top of anything. And we go out there and one thing leads to another. And of course I end up eyeing up this cliff and I'm like, that looks like a pretty cool line. And then the filmer was like, hey, Michelle, what about that one? And I was like, yeah, I've been looking at it. Like, it looks great. Go up there, drop the cliff, land on a rock, like right under my boot. And I actually skied away and I was like, holy shit, like something's not right. And I like kind of flop over and I feel down on my knee and my kneecap is like basically behind my leg on my hamstring, but my foot's facing forward. I'm like, I didn't dislocate my knee, but it's like in so much pain. Dislocations just hurt. And I was actually with JP Auclair at the time, and JP is like one of our biggest legends ever in our sport. And he had, big time air horns. He had taken a bunch of rescue courses leading up to it. This was pretty like advanced for us in the mountains. Like he was one of the first professional skiers that I saw really like taking woofer seriously and taking these avalanche courses. And so he did an amazing rescue, got me down with the other guides, and it was super funny. I was in this like sled, right, and everything's like hidden from, because cold is like a big thing when you get injured. Everything's hidden from it's not exposed except for my neck, and I'm like in so much pain. I'm like, does anyone have any like pain medication? Like I need something. I'm like it's too much. And they're like, yeah, there's actually a doctor and he's on staff right now. He's like one of the doctors from Nelson, and he'll come and like administer some pain meds. I'm like, okay, sweet. So he shows up, he has this big old beard, he's got one arm, and he's like, he just has this huge syringe and he like jams it in my neck. And I'm like, oh, I hate needles so much. This like syringe goes in and like, I know what morphine feels like. I had been injured before and it wasn't that. And I was like, whatever you guys just gave me, that placebo effect didn't work. Like I need real stuff right now. Like I'm in pain. 4 hours later, the rescue like finally ends up happening. I'm just out there in the snow, just like, fuck, this sucks. They fly me down to Nelson. And yeah, that was ACL, meniscus, medial patellofemoral, microfracture, cartilage damage, like the whole gamut, like a bunch of different, I didn't even know what the medial patellofemoral ligament was. And that was a huge process. I found out later that my doctor, Dr. Orr, credit him with saving my entire ski career. He told my dad, he was like, I don't think she'll ever ski again. And it was 2 surgeries total to come back from that one, at which point too, like all of my sponsors left me. It was right when the Olympics were announced for women in slopestyle, and I was like, whoa, do I want to go down that path and dedicate like the rest of my life to like going to the Olympics? I have like, my uncle went to the Olympics for water polo. Like there's like a bit of family history there. It was like something that sounded really dope, mostly to walk out during open ceremony. I was like, that'd be kind of cool. But then I decided that, like, fuck that, I just want to ski powder. And so I bailed on that whole thing, and all my sponsors dropped me simultaneously with that injury. Like these sponsors I've been on for 8-10 years, and I was crushed. And I couldn't make my house payments. I couldn't pay my taxes. I was like, whoa, rock bottom. But my dad, being like the most positive person ever, was like, he's like giving me all of 10 minutes to cry it out and like deal with the injury. And then it was like, all right, from here on out, it's all smiles. Like you're attacking this thing. And I did that. And it took me out for like well over a year, like a year and a half, almost 2 years probably. And then I remember when I got back on snow, it was like, you can ski one day, take 3 days off, ski one run, take 3 days off. It was like this slow easing back into getting into the mountains. And having lost everything, I was like, whoa, like I'm going to have to get a job. I'm going to go to school. Like at the time, it didn't faze me that much because I was like, I'm so young. Like, who cares? That was cool. Like, I got to be a pro skier. Like, that's dope. But in reality, like, that's all I wanted to do. I was like, this is the most fun thing I could think of. Like, I'm not giving up on this. So I started just cold calling people and called up this guy named Steve Reska. He worked for Matchstick, a cinematographer there. And I was like, yo, dude, like, I'm ready to film again. Like, I want to film, but I don't have any sponsors. And he's like, all right, I got you. And he's like, these are the sponsors that we're working with, like Mountain Hardware and Atomic at the time. And they picked me up, basically got back on board with Matchstick for the next 3 years and walked from all my old sponsors. Like, I had nothing. Like, I remember sitting at my CPA's desk and she's like, this is how much you owe on taxes. And I just started crying. I was like, I can't pay that. Like, I have nothing, just like hobbling around on crutches. And then so yeah, he got me back on board, filmed with them. I find that the year after an injury is like the year that I don't put that much pressure on myself. I'm like, I'm coming back. Like, no one has any pressure. Like, it's all good. So I skied apparently really good. I didn't think anything of it. I just had fun out there, and then go to the world premiere, and Reska had left Matchstick at that point and went to Red Bull. So I land in Seattle and he picks me up. I'm like, this is kind of weird that you're picking me up. Like, you're a friend, but like, you're not my team manager. And then he picked me up and just handed me the Red Bull hat. And I was like, holy shit. Like, you got me all my new sponsors and you just handed me the cap. And then I won Best Female Segment like that night. And so it was like rock bottom to like back up to the top. I just was so fucking lucky. That was crazy.
Damn. What did that guy stick in your neck?
It was it was like the Canadian.
The most inspiring, the most inspiring story
I
ever.
gotta know.
Most inspiring story ever. You just can't wait for you to finish.
I have a part two. I have a part two.
Wait, can you just get done talking? I need to know what was in the neck. I'm over here like about to start crying, guys.
I have a part two question, but I have to know what was in the neck.
It was gravel.
What?
So that's like the Canadian version of Dramamine, like for motion sickness.
What a jerk. Dude, you know what I've learned in my old
I
age?
knew he was going to do that the whole time. Once you said the thing in his neck, I'm like, Eastone just is going to wait for you to stop talking, and he's going to ask what went in your neck.
You know what I learned in my old age is you gotta that gut feeling is real.
It's real.
It's so real, and I didn't
Gotta
figure this
listen
out
to
till
it.
like my 40s.
Intuition.
Yeah, that intuition, your gut is like just something magical, and you gotta like, as an athlete, listen to that and back down when you gotta back down. And
Totally.
it works for me for everything now. When I get a weird thought, it's like, oh, I gotta do this way. And it's real.
Yeah, intuition's real.
Third injury, not a ton. I'm not going to go into that, but same thing. Totally had the intuition. Totally spoke up.
Your mind
went out
knows,
there.
and it's maybe that guardian angel you talked about. I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's an amazing
You
story.
know.
And also, I think that the more you get spiritually connected with yourself and your self-awareness, I think it becomes more obvious too as you.
When you're 18, you don't listen.
If you're boozing and doing drugs all the time and stuff, you're probably not going to be super in touch with your. You
can't hear that voice.
That
Totally.
voice is not.
Yeah, it's
But if you're
muted.
kind of like in the mountains and you're grounded, like you said, I think that voice might get louder. You know?
Yeah.
And when you're young, you just don't even listen.
Yeah,
Like,
you're like,
"Ah,
well, you
whatever."
got so much
Yeah, I've
vinegar
got
in
this.
there.
It's just down,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, listen to that intuition. That's kind of like shaping a lot. I've had like a big shift in the way that I see our industry and my part in it too. Like when you're younger, you do want to be the best, right? You want to like go win that video segment. That was always the pinnacle for me, is like winning that best female segment. And now I'm like, whoa, like fuck all that. Like I'm in it for the longevity and the good times. Like I've been doing this for 20 years now. Like I'm going to keep this going. And like, what do I have to do for longevity? Like I'm going to the gym now. I'm like focusing on that. I'm celebrating all the small moments in between. Like powder, like there's a high rate of suicide in mountain towns, right? It's known that
Very
like
high.
mental health, we have issues in these mountain towns. And I think a part of that is like how fleeting these feelings are. Like you're bummed, like the weather affects you. If it's raining to the top, you're like, oh, my heart just sank. And you get that pow day and you totally score and you're on this high, and then that goes away real quick. But like we need to start as a culture celebrating all the in-betweens. Like my 2 best days of this season, for sure. Taking my mom ski touring. We didn't summit shit. We like walked up, had a picnic, skied down. Best freaking day of my season. Being out with my dad, who's 72 and he's got Parkinson's, and I don't know how much longer I'll be able to ski with him. Like second best day, first best, whatever. They're both like, those are the memorable moments. So like tapping into like what are you really getting this lasting joy of? Like celebrating those conversations. Like I think it's great to have the aspirational athletes, but like we gotta fucking come home. Like we can't be losing people out there in the mountains. It's not worth it. And we need to celebrate all these moments and have these bonds and connections and have these conversations together, because that's what helps our mental health community, right?
Community.
Yeah.
One of our listeners hit me up on a DM and talking about mental health. And you were talking about how it's raining to the top. You're all negative and bummed. And he was like, it's funny they say no friends on a powder day, but it's really everyone's friends on a powder day.
Yeah.
You're talking, it's a good day. You're like talking to some random skier. That's
Totally.
sick. Oh, what a great day.
Yeah.
And that's just, he just talked about how uplifting a powder day can be. And
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's some stuff I wanted to add to that as well of what you said. You know, I want to pick your brain on this too, because I feel like we're as a culture conditioned to win. And I notice this especially with dudes, is like the way you're kind of shown love as a dude is like, if you're good at sports, your dad's going to be like, good job, you know, maybe the same for you, but we're kind of conditioned to, get love when you do well at sports, right? So from a young age, you notice, oh, well, little Timmy did great in soccer today. Like, and he's like, oh, my parents like love me when I score a goal in soccer, right? So as that progresses, we kind of are chasing this this dragon of success, right? And you're like, well, if I just get last video part, I'll be happy. And maybe if I just get skier of the year, I'll be happy. Maybe if I do these things. And in my experience, I've noticed that the most success I've ever had in a year on my snowboard was actually the most miserable and most unhealthy I was mentally of my entire life. And I've heard this analogy of like people saying like, oh, I made it to the quote unquote top of the mountain, and they're yelling back and they're saying, guys, don't come up here. This isn't it. This isn't the way you want to come.
Yeah.
Do you relate to any of that, what I'm saying with some of your successes?
Yeah, honestly, well, that's interesting that you were in a really bad place mentally when you had a really good season, because my best seasons are always like after an injury where I don't put any pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I tap into that, like not getting injured? But yeah, I think like, yeah, the summit's not it. It's the journey. It's the people you're with.
Well, you just took what I was trying to say in 3 sentences and perfectly, 3 words. Well, that actually boils back to your Instagram. I was lurking, and it says addicted to now, and that kind of sums that up too, right?
Yeah, addicted to right now. Be here right now. Like focus on this. Yeah, being present. That's harder. It's easier said than done, but yeah.
Yeah, and if you fundamentally look at, well, once I get here, then I'll be happy. The problem is when you get there, you're like, oh shit, I'm actually still not happy. But it's like the process of getting from here to there is the good.
Yeah. The shitty parts, the best parts, like everything in between. Like we're human. We need to feel all those feels and fucking share them with your friends. Like talk about it. Don't be afraid to. Like, yeah, I think that's important.
Good stuff. When you came back from the injury, two things. Like A, how did you get your confidence back? And B, what advice do you have for somebody that just got hurt that maybe is in a dark place? Yeah.
I think one of the things I love to do, and I learned this from my first injury, is like, feel all the feels. Like that's a part of you. That's super important to honor those feelings and to like let your body process them. Like feelings are circular. You can't just not deal with it and bundle it up. Like you got to deal with it. So like allow yourself, give yourself the space and time to fucking cry. Put on a sad song and cry it out. And I guarantee by the time that song's over, you'll be done crying. And your body will have then processed some of that emotional dealings. And then if you're really upset and bummed, put on some fucking heavy metal and punch a pillow and like give yourself time and space to like do that. So like, first of all, deal with those emotions. Don't be down on yourself because of it, but then know that like the future's bright. You're going to come back from this in one way, shape, or form. I can't say that I've ever regretted any injury. Like those have been some of the most powerful moments in my career to learn and be a better person. And like, if you can frame your mindset to think about it in a positive way, is like of course deal with all the negative aspects about it, but like, I don't know, there's some cool things you get to do when you're injured. Like I learned the ukulele, I went to college, I started going to school and learning. Like use your time wisely, and first of all, like we're incredibly privileged to have the leisurely time to learn the ukulele. Like I know a lot of people don't have that time, but like work your ass off too. Like listen to your doctors, listen to your physical therapist. You'll come back stronger.
Question number 1, do you feel like since you had it all ripped away from you, you had all of your sponsors taken away, do you feel like that gave you motivation that this could be taken away anytime I'm going to work my ass off?
Yeah, which is like the risk in what we do, right? We don't have like like a retirement plan in this job. Like you could get dropped and you could be down and out and not really have gone to school and have like, what skill sets am I going to lean into? But I think like part of the way I've looked at this industry for myself as an athlete is like, you can do whatever you want. You can make a photo book. You can be a journalist. You can make your own edits. Like there's so many different avenues you can go down. So like, I think that's really inspiring too. You're like, oh, I want to learn about that. I have all the tools in front of me to learn about that. Whether that's designing your own clothing or your boards or whatever it is, like the world's your oyster. You can do whatever you want. So that's super inspiring to think of all the different avenues. I think that's kept it fresh for me. Like it started with racing, then I went to park skiing, then I built the skills like street rails and filming and like backcountry jumps, and then I took all these avalanche courses. That opened it up a whole nother world. Like I'm constantly learning and expanding, and I think that's kept everything super fresh. Kind of forgot what your question was.
No, you're on a great tangent. Keep going.
Yeah, like it's just like you can do whatever you want to do, and that's the shit.
That's something a lot of people struggle with. You see riders, I have tons of people I can think of right now that have had a career doing one thing, and they haven't found that thing to keep it fresh. And that's really cool to hear. You know, you went from street rails to slope style to video parts to big mountain to naturally powered, not taking helicopters, big mountain to, mountain bike to climbing around on the rocks and fucking getting to the mountain that way, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like you're the inspiring takeaway I'm getting is like, you got to evolve to keep it fresh.
Totally. As a human and as an athlete. Mm-hmm. And like sponsors aren't going to want to work with you if you're not like cool. Like you got to be cool. And being cool by that, I mean like be a really nice person, be a good person. What my dad taught me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing I was thinking about too is that you lost all of your sponsors at one time. And, as a rider, we kind of get our sense of self-worth unhealthily, I think, from that. When these brands are the ones that kind of make you can make it through contest results, but like a lot of times the brands are the ones that decide if you're pro. The brands are the ones that pay you. The brands, so it's kind of your source of validation in a way, which is unhealthy, but kind of a reality of the situation. So when your brands and your sponsors were all taken away, and your sense of validation, did that kind of like crush your confidence or crush your way you felt about yourself?
I don't think I let it get to my self-confidence necessarily. I think I knew what I had, and I think I knew that like I would do anything to have that again. And I think I was also like, excuse my French, but I was like, well, fuck those guys. They're missing out. Like, I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, again, like I've been told no a lot in my career. And if you can just rise above that and know what your goals are. And like for me, the whole time, my whole career, I think I've just like shown up and done my best. And like, I don't try to put as much weight on my performance, especially now. I'm like, wait, again, going back to like, yeah, it's great to have aspirational athletes doing big things, but like, we also need to celebrate like the pow turns, the like skin track conversation, the beer at the trailhead, the connections. Like half the people I tour with in Tahoe are like 60 and above. Like those connections, that's community. Like those things bring me so much joy. And what if as a culture, like we weren't always pushing the limits super hard athletically? Like shit's dangerous. Like people are having head injuries and life altering injuries that like affect more than just that person. Like we don't have to be the best. That's ego. Like maybe that drove me for a while. I think it like pushed me in that direction. But like at the end of the day, like we ain't got to be that person. There's room for it all. If you're like doing inspirational stuff, if you're a pillar of your community, that matters to me. If I'm a sponsor looking at an athlete, like be the pillar of your community rather than using those pillars to climb to the top. Like that shit's cool.
I love the way you just said that. That was amazing. Because if I view a role of an athlete or a sponsored athlete, we'll say, it's to inspire. And you can inspire by doing the best, hardest tricks. But you can also inspire by storytelling or doing all the things that you're doing, and you're also ripping. I'm not trying to discredit that. But there's more than one way to inspire people. Totally.
And think outside the box, especially now. Like I think our industry as a whole, like, needs to shift more in that direction for the sake of people's bodies too. Like I don't want to have another knee injury. Like hell no. I've had 5. I don't want to have another knee injury.
Totally.
Like yeah, I'm in this for the long run. I'm in this for the good times. Yeah, and always coming home.
Yeah, you want to be able to ski as long as you can, right?
Totally. I mean, it's so cute too. Like a lot of my ski touring partners, like my buddy's getting his hip replaced, and I'm like, damn it, can you just be young like me forever? Like, you're the person I look up to so much. I call you every day to go hike in the mountains. Like,
homie's here.
Oh, puppy dogs.
We had dogs just open the door.
Hip, though, supposedly they're good to go right after.
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I think so.
We had a buddy who just got one, and he's great. He's killing it.
All right, Buds, you know what it's time for?
I think it's time for Name That Video part.
That is correct.
I'm sweating over here.
Name That Video part is presented by our store. We got all kinds of merch on there, huh, Buds?
Yeah, we do.
What do we got?
We got some cool new stuff. We got some basketball shorts. We got some cool towels. I mean, shit's popping on the store.
It's popping. Use promo code StonyBuds for 0% off. We got screaming.
Code.
We got screaming
I like
deals.
that.
All right, Michelle, how you feeling about this video part situation?
I'm not feeling good. If you played my own segment, I don't know if I'd get it.
Really?
Oh, this is not good.
Wow.
This is not good. So, percentage-wise, 0 through 10, what's your confidence level?
I'm going with like a 1.5.
1.5?
All right, that's
respectable.
Yeah. That's actually kind of high for some people.
Oh, wow.
Go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Is it Tanner Hall?
It is not.
No. Who is it?
But that is also in The Matrix, I think, that song as well.
That song's pretty dope. I like that.
It's his last name's almost like Fajitas, but like with a U, and It's like a F-U-G-J.
Oh, Fujas. Pep Fujas. That's what's up.
I didn't know what.
Was it session 1242?
Yes, session
Okay,
1242.
I got the video.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got it. That's a win.
That's a win. That's
Yes.
a win.
Sorry, Pep.
Legendary part I watch is
Legendary.
I'm a little
Pep's
out.
such a legend.
So
Oh,
you got
wow.
yourself a bomb hole prize pack.
Amazing.
So this is a little shout out to the people over at Yeti. They gave us these little carry-alls
Yeah,
filled
little
with
tote.
bomb hole merch.
This looks amazing.
And a couple other things that we got in there. We just got these. These are on our store too. We got slow tide bomb hole towels. And we have a slow tide bomb hole blanket. Phil, you're not getting any of that?
Looking so nice. This gear's amazing. The bucket hat. Big fan of buckets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going to run these.
Those are probably sold out by the time that
and the
that comes in.
corduroy. Wow, that's hot. Everybody take note.
Corduroy
It's a
hitters.
nice package.
Yeah, this is a very nice package. I will wear this stuff all the time with pride. Thank you guys
Much
so much.
appreciated. And if you're interested in picking up Slow Tide, we got the towels and the blankets available at bombhole.com. You can also head on over to slowtide.co. And they're doing, I believe you do promo code bombhole for 15% off. And they have like Grateful Dead towels. They got all kinds of, you know what I really
I've
like?
seen a Modelo towel.
Modelo towel.
Yeah.
They got a poncho that you can change in when you go surfing.
yeah, surf
You go
poncho.
dong
those
out.
are nice.
You go dong out just about anywhere
Yeah.
in that thing. It's great. Here you can
Is
take
that like
these.
a new item
Thank
that
you.
crept into surfing recently? Because I've
It
been
is.
seeing those everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Because that's so awkward
how have they
to
never
take
had
your
those?
wetsuit on.
Half the time, how
Yeah.
many ball sacks do you see on a
Yeah.
regular basis trying to change?
How have they never had those in surfing? It's such a good idea.
I'm not sure.
Whoever came up with it probably should win some sort of award.
They
Yeah.
should. Head over
A
to
Pulitzer Prize, maybe.
slowtide.co. Use promo code bombhole. Great little gift for anybody.
Big time.
15% off. That being said, part 2 of Name That Video part. This is for our listeners. If you know the part, comment on Michelle's Instagram photo on our bombhole at bombhole. And that's where we pick our winner. So here we go.
And is that snowboarding or skiing?
That's snowboarding.
All right.
Thank you for playing Name That Video part.
All right. Let's get back into it. We got a Patreon question. We've talked about how your significant other is Blatt. Aaron Blatt, for the listeners. Very talented photographer and
him an air horn.
movie maker now.
Yep.
Skilled mountain biker, snowboarder, musician.
Skilled campfire,
Just a great
partner.
human.
Pancake cook,
great human.
yeah.
pancake cooker.
So this is from Hava Fernandez. Is Blatt as farty around you as he is around the boys?
Farty.
Farty. It's
Ah,
a new word,
Hava.
farty.
Yeah, Hava was like one of the last friends of Aaron that was on my list of people to meet. Shouts to Hava. Thanks for that question. Yeah, Aaron has recently become very comfortable with farting in front of me, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
a
gotta
good
be able
step
to
in
do
the
that.
relationship,
Totally.
right?
Yeah, I think I was more comfortable for a lot longer than him, for sure.
I actually had a question. Chris Bencheller told me to bring up something about a barking spider at one point.
I always joke, I'm like, there's a barking spider and it lives up your ass.
Took my wife like 20 years to get comfortable, but she finally made it.
Yeah, 20 years deep.
Seemed that way, yeah.
She's a proper lady.
Yeah, I can't say the same for Buds. He's probably sharded in front of her more than he's farted.
Definitely.
I spend too much time in the mountains, like on an expedition or something. Like it's just
The elevation.
totally, yes, the
true,
elevation, totally.
Hence the reason. Have you ever been to an airport bathroom? It's a war zone in
yeah,
there.
it is a
oh
war
Oh
my
my
god.
god, yeah.
So let's talk about that because you've done Denali and these big peaks, and it's not like you just show up and go up the thing. You got to get acclimated to the elevation and all that.
Yeah. So I guess my interest in like higher elevation peaks. So I think what's considered to be a high altitude peak would be like 18,000 and above, and that's because that's where your body can start to detrimentally become ill or whatever from the elevation. And so, I have these two amazing friends back in Tahoe, Emily Harrington and Adrienne Ballinger. Emily's like one of the best, rock climbers in the entire world. She's very well-rounded individual, and her and Adrienne are kind of like known for these like big mountains, Everest, like Makalu, all these big high altitude peaks. And so hanging out with them, like, of course I got interested. Wouldn't want to walk up and walk down. I'm in it for the skiing for sure. And Denali was my second high altitude peak. And that trip basically was spurred from Johnny Collinson and Ian McIntosh. We're going to do some training, like runs up and down mountains to get acclimated to go to Nepal. And I heard about it. I was just coming back from an expedition in Kachatna Spires in Alaska, this beautiful zone. And I like literally landed and got a text from Cody saying that he was going to Denali. And I was like, oh, can I come with? Like, I'd really love to do that. And he was like, yeah, talk to Ian and Johnny. And so like I got on board, and that was like not a sponsored trip. Like we just went for fun. We named it Denali Summer Vacation. And, yeah, it was so fun. We brought tons of whiskey up there. We just like kind of raged our way up there, but it was funny. There was some funny thing that happened. Like basically there's 2 pills that you carry with you when you're on these high altitude peaks, dexamethasone and Diamox. Diamox you can use to help you adjust to the altitude on your way up. And dexamethasone you use only when you're coming down. Like you take that, it's a steroid. It's for like when you get HAPE or HACE and you're going down, right? So we're like at 11,000 feet and we're moving our way up there. And I noticed this day that Cody was just on fire. He's like an ox. He's carrying his gear. Our bags and everything are like 115 pounds. You got your sled behind you, you're towing. It's just like full on endurance. And like Cody's really charging today. And then I'm sharing a tent with him and I'm like, yo, like he's taking some pills. And I'm like, what are you taking? He's like, dexamethasone. And I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure that's what you take on the way down. He's like, no, you take this on the way up. The doctor told me. And I'm like, I don't know. So I like actually went and got a ranger. And I was like, yo, my tent mate is taking dexamethasone. Like we should check on him. And sure enough, like you're going to have withdrawals and stuff. So like Cody goes through this whole process of like, don't take dex on the way up. And then like we make it up to 14,000 feet and we're up there and it's like, I don't know, we kind of like, to be honest, we were like drinking and having a good time and like just kind of doing our thing. And we had other rangers, or like not the rangers were like really close with us. We'd have dinner parties with them, but like other people on the glacier were like, can you guys like turn it down after 9 p.m.? Like we have clients, like they're like giving us bedtimes and stuff. And we're like, no, fuck that. Like we're here to have a good time. Like we don't have no sponsors here. Like we're not filming or taking photos. Like we're just in it for the good times. And anyways, yeah, we, there's a funny story. So like when you're like living at altitude, like you got to drink a lot of water and then you got to pee in the middle of the night. And it kind of sucks cause you're like in a tent. So basically for us females, like we kind of shuffle up our sleeping bag and you squat and you try to aim into an Nalgene, which is pretty hard. It's pretty hard to do. And I was real nervous about this. I was like, I don't know if I've got this, but you don't want to like walk outside. It's below 0 degrees. Like it's kind of this whole process. So like I nailed it the first night. And then I remember like, and I'm sharing a tent with Cody, whose wife is Elise Sogstead. She's like a super close friend of mine, professional skier. And I like do it one night and then I reached down to put the cap back on and I fucking missed. And there's just piss like everywhere in my sleeping bag. And I'm like, oh my God, like all over my gear. You only bring so many underwears and socks and everything. And super embarrassed. I take my frozen wet wipes out and I'm trying to clean it up. And Cody wakes up and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just peed the bed. And he's like so nice about it at first, but the morning, like, the morning after, the first thing he said, he peeks his head out the tent. And he's like, guess what Michelle did last night? She pissed her bed. So yeah, that happened. I've learned since then, but that was an incredible experience. We actually summited on day 9, which is a little faster than you probably should. You're supposed to acclimatize a bit more. I was feeling like hell at the top. I was like, this is brutal, like walking, pretty tough to walk a straight line. But we put our skis on and like the second I started skiing, I was like, I'm good to go. And I found out at like 18,000 feet that I think most of the people in my party had been taking Diamox unbeknownst to me. So like I'm the only one not taking these altitude pills. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But we ended up skiing the Orient Express off Denali. It's a classic, beautiful line that comes back down to 14,000 feet. And yeah, full like successful mission. It was so fun though. And again, like it wasn't about the summit for me. Actually, the craziest thing was we were like 500 feet away from the summit. My buddy Shane Street's like, yo, like I have the sat phone. I brought it up here. We should all call someone that we love. Cody calls Elise and it like gets all broken and cut up and they hang up and I'm like, you need to call her again. Like she might think that something wrong is going on. I called my dad and he was sitting on the beach in Hawaii. He's like, I'm on the beach in Hawaii. And I was like, I'm almost to the summit of the tallest peak in North America. And it was just beautiful. Like I will always remember that phone call. But yeah, that was such a fun trip. What a great experience. I love it up there.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Forgive my ignorance on this kind of mountaineering type of stuff where you go all the way to the summit. Buds and I drive around in cars in hit handrails. So when you say it takes 9 days to the summit, what does that look like? Is every day you're going like, 10 miles or whatever? What does that look like in those 9 days?
Totally. So you usually get flown in on like a Beaver or like one of these planes that can land on glaciers, and you start actually for Denali in this like the Kahiltna Glacier. I believe it's the Kahiltna Glacier. So you start walking on flats and you're like short roping, which means you're all tied together. That's like oddly the only time I've ever had panic attacks is when I'm short roping, because you like have to keep pace with the person in front of you. And that's just like to walk on glaciers, you tie up. And but you're just walking, like as far as you can. You set up camp, you break it down in the morning, you eat, like go as far as you can, set up camp. And mind you, like we split all of our gear evenly amongst our group. So like we have 115 pounds like individually like distributed. I'm like, Cody and Ian are like, they're so big. And I weigh 115 pounds. I'm like carrying my weight up this thing.
Crazy.
And I'm like cutting out like everything. I'm like, can't bring that. Like I need my shit to be as light as possible. We get up there and like Johnny Collinson had like this dope jean jacket. I'm like, what the fuck, man? That's not like cutting out weight. You brought this. He also brought dry shampoo, which was like a big plus for me. He's got long, beautiful, flowing blonde hair. I was hyped on that. But then like a bunch of the boys also brought drones. You can't fly drones up there. I was like, you guys, come on. Like here I am being all minimalist. But it's hard work, and you just work your way up the mountain. There's one part of the mountain called Motorcycle Hill. We did that in 2 loads. So we walked up, dropped gear, walked down, slept, walked up again. And then we started our ascent day from 14,000 feet. So you're going to 21,300, I think, is the summit of Denali. And it's a long day. We were like, we're going to be like alpinist and get up at 6 a.m. And then we fucking got up at 6 and we're like, it's way too cold. We started at 10, like proper free riders, I guess. But yeah, what a joyous adventure. We got good weather. It was sunny and really enjoyable. It was really cool.
How much did your pack weigh when you left?
Like when we went down?
No, like just when you had all your own stuff in it.
Like, I mean, we all carry like camp gear and all that stuff, but I just remember that weight, like 115 pounds.
Because you guys all weigh it and then split it up so you have the same weight.
Same weight, yeah.
That
and I was like,
a
is
little
this
unfair
like fair?
if you only weigh 115. There should be some sort of formula there.
Yeah, but
do it like 20% of your body weight.
And if someone just packs all sorts of random stuff.
Totally, like jean jackets and dry shampoo. Yeah. Pretty good.
I also think it's funny that that's your like idea of fun, because that to me
sounds crazy.
I'd rather like get hit in the face with a shovel than do that.
Totally. I respect that. It's not for everyone. I don't know what it is. I think it's the process of becoming so deeply bonded with the friends that you're on the adventure with. That's what I'm in it for. That's the why.
What about were you guys hungover in the morning because you're going so hard, or?
I don't remember that much, to be honest.
Fine.
It was just a good time.
Yeah,
but I'm
just
sure
drinking.
you forget the bad parts. That's what makes a good alpinist or like a good mountaineer. Like you forget the shitty parts you want to do it
always
again.
forget that stuff just on everything.
Like that was so fun, and then you get back into it and you're like, this fucking sucks. What were you thinking?
Yeah.
Why do we do this
As
to
you're
ourselves?
doing it,
Yeah.
it sucks,
Why are we
but
doing this?
You
Yeah.
look
Totally.
back, it's great.
Yeah, lots of type 2.
I got to do a little Mythbusters here, because I was recently at a motocross race up in Mammoth, and a couple of the people were saying, hey man, you need to take some Viagra. Viagra is like, it's good for elevation. Like I was like, I'm not going to take a fucking Viagra pill and ride around my dirt bike with a rock hard opponent.
Yeah,
That's
that
just not what I'm
sounds
going to
crazy.
do. But like, then they're like, no, all of the rock climbers that go up at a really high elevation and alpinists, like they use Viagra. Now, have you ever heard of this?
I've heard of this. I've never spoken to anyone. I think that there's a lot of things going on when people go to high altitude, but I don't know about the Viagra thing.
Wow.
But you should totally try it.
Yeah, no, I was like, are you guys trying to punk me? Is this an Ashton Kutcher?
They might be. Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher situation?
Yeah, they wanted to see you bike around with a boner, dude, and just laugh at you every lap.
All right, so maybe I'm getting punked. Okay, good to know. That's good stuff. Yeah, we talked earlier about one thing people, I don't know if everybody knows about you, but you play like you sing and you play the ukulele, and what's it like when you and Blatt is a campfire god. He gets on that acoustic and just starts belting.
Talented.
Yeah.
Are you guys you guys must be like professional partiers when it comes to a campfire?
I mean, to be honest, like we play every night at home, and I find it to be like one of the most beautiful ways to connect. Like you're doing this thing that, like, for me, So I started playing the ukulele like after my third injury, and I was like, okay, my goal with this is to be able to play at a campfire. Like that's like a big part of my culture where I come from is we like camp out and everyone gathers around the campfire. And so I wanted to find my voice, but that felt really vulnerable. So Angel Collinson, this other skier, professional skier who's retired recently, but she is a really good singer. So she was injured at the same time, and I like Googled singing camps or like singing lessons, and I found this dope camp at Brighton Bush, Oregon. It's a hot springs. It's like full hippie, like you're naked the whole time, and then it's a singing camp. I was like, well, that's fucking vulnerable for me for sure. So I kind of went through that process, and you had to sing a cappella in front of like 40 people. I was tripping.
Well, you're naked?
No. Thankfully not.
What are they doing to you out there?
Yeah, totally. But then, I got into the ukulele. There's an amazing group of friends that make ukuleles in Tahoe called Tide Music, and their ukes are like really beautiful. They're like just pieces of art. So purchased one from them, started taking lessons, and then I met Aaron. I guess we've been dating now for like 5 years, and he was like shooting me for Anon goggles, and we just like connected, and then it started raining for like 5 days. And so we like ended up writing a song together and like playing that. And we just had like a really good time. So he kind of brought that out in me a lot more before we even together. And then like officially when we got together, I remember that night, it was 4th of July. We'd been playing music at a friend's house till like super late. We ride our bikes back home, and we like went off into the woods and just played music together till like 5 a.m. And I was like, I think I have a crush on this guy. Like, let's make this official. But yeah, we've got a little set list. We got paid one time to play. It was really fun. I love playing with him at Baldface with Jeff Pinciero. Like, that's like my favorite place, I think, to play music. And yeah, it's been nothing but good times. He's amazing though. Like, Aaron's been playing since he was 5. He's very, very talented.
He's nice with it, and he's gonna cook you some pancakes in the morning. It's a whole experience.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. Now, going back to Baldface, I was told that you go up there, you do your skiing. A lot of times, maybe you get a couple photos that you need, and then you switch over to a snowboard and start fucking shit up.
Yeah, that place, like the whole vibe of it, for me, like I have so much more fun when I snowboard. I think I've taken a couple ski runs, and then there's a part of me that looks at my skis every day, and they're just snow stacking up on them, and I haven't used them, and I'm like, poor skis. Like, I love you, but like snowboarding is really fun, and that terrain is like, it's just meant for snowboarding. Like, as much as like, because I ski with like mostly snowboarders a lot when I'm just recreationally skiing. We have a good posse, and to me, when I'm on my skis, like I just want to go as fast as I can and hit the biggest cliffs that I can. And like, there's a part of it too where like I love working with the terrain and like visualizing how the ball would roll down and playing with banks and stuff. And I think I get a lot of that inspiration from snowboarding. But when I'm on my snowboard, I'm like, I just want to turn. Like, the turn is such a beautiful, joyous thing. It's like, to perfect that turn, that's a goal of mine. Like, I just love it. It's so much fun.
That's amazing. That brings us to a guest question from none other than Nick Russell.
What up, Bombhole? Yo, Michelle, Nick here. Hyped to hear you're in the booth. You are probably one of the most well-versed athletes that I know. Whether you're charging lines in Alaska on your skis, or rock climbing big walls in Peru, or getting in the mix with the best of them on your mountain bike, and also on a snowboard. We've had a lot of really fun days when you decide to bring out your split board for the tour, and you got some skills. So my question for you is, can we expect you to go full Sean Pettit on us anytime soon? And if so, when can we expect a full Michelle Parker snowboard part? Thanks, guys and gal. Peace.
Oh, thanks, Nick. Much appreciated. That was very kind of you. Nick's like been one of my main touring partners for a number of years now. I feel like we've grown together in the mountains, and I feed off of his energy. He is like, loves snowboarding so much and loves getting out there. And yeah, I've played around with that thought in my mind. I think I'd go more like the Jeremy Jones route, and like the big mountain Jeremy Jones, and go full split board missions and big mountains like that. But I don't know if I'm going full Sean Pettit. Mad love for Sean Pettit. I have so much respect for him, but I also love skiing too much. I don't know. It'd be so fun. I'm not good enough though. Like, I can't go drop a part, but I just really enjoy it. Whatever brings you joy.
It's like, it reminds me of Sean Palmer back in the day too. He would like win border cross and then go win skier cross.
So you just do anything.
Yeah. Ricky Goddardam too. Like,
Yeah.
always, I'm like, how do you just drop in on skis? You haven't skied in like a year and throw a cork 10.
Comes right back.
Yeah. Like, he's amazing. Yeah.
But you have, let's just kind of look at the stats here. Like you said, you've gotten incredible at rock climbing. You've gotten incredible at skiing. You've gotten incredible at mountain biking. If you applied yourself, I mean, it just took 1 year and be like, I'm going to snowboard this year. I'm just saying.
That is true.
I'm just saying. I think it would be dope. That's all.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe I'll do that.
And go back to skiing, whatever, But I'm just
keep it.
Cool.
You got to mix it up though, right?
Mix it up.
Yeah.
Keep it interesting.
Yeah.
She's just like on top of like Chad's Gap, just like tomahawking full speed.
Yeah. Holy shit. Step into Chad's. Right. No, but I get so much inspiration like from the snowboarding side of things. Watching Zoe right now, like. Love that girl. So impressive.
A lot of times the women's contest like is more dramatic. Like it's like
it's
a
more
lot of
exciting.
times they're more nail biter runs where she came through the Olympics and put the back 10 down and landed in the parking lot and freaking erupted.
A lot of the guys
amazing.
just look the same. Yeah.
Yeah. I love watching her progress too in like the natural selection, and then she filmed with Aaron and that squad this last year and getting to see some of those clips. I'm like, yes. It's happening.
Yeah, she's about to go on about a 10-year run of being the new goat here.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Champ.
She's coming up.
You kind of breezed over this quickly. You talked about how you've lost a ton of legends in skiing. Maybe there's something to be said with you've kind of learned how to deal with grief in a sense or loss. And I wanted to see if you wanted to lean into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's been wild in our industry. Like, how many people, from Shane McConkey, C.R. Johnson, like the list is long. I can't even count them on two hands, let alone four, to be honest. Like when I was in high school, we lost our first friend, Carson, who he was just like in our squad. Like we'd go ski with him every day and he had a brain injury and we lost him. And then right after that, I lost like my boyfriend at the time's father. And then it was like every other year I was losing someone that I considered to be pretty close to me. And it fucked me up for sure. Like that is no joke. That's super hard to deal with. And then, eventually it came down to like my actual best friend, Timmy Dutton. And he passed away, I want to say it was maybe in 2006 or something. But he was like my ride or die. Like we grew up together. We were in the womb together. Our moms were friends and like tightest friend ever. And he passed away in a skydiving accident. And that one like hit me the hardest. Like I was choked. I couldn't do anything. I was like, I'm paralyzed from this. Like, this is so hard. And I remember calling my friend who was a Master Chief Navy SEAL, which is the highest ranking you can be in Navy SEALs. And I was like, I can't really think of other aspects of life where we're losing so many friends. Like, this feels like it's war or something. Like, it's like, I mean, I don't take that lightly, but it felt like, okay, you're a Navy SEAL. Like, you've seen this a lot. Like, what do I do? And he kind of worked with me and talked me through it. And like everyone deals with grief in a different way. I think that's really important to note. There's like, everyone says there's these 5 different stages of grief and you process it. And I think for me, like, I mean, when Timmy passed away, luckily I had JT Holmes. We were like a tripod of friends and he was like, he like whipped out this calendar and he's like, what do you have to do like in the next 2 months? Like, and then he just started taking a Sharpie and crossing everything out. And he's like, fuck all that. Take time for yourself. Like get back to center, like figure this shit out. And I think just, man, like take your time with it. I don't know if I have it figured out. They've all hit different. For a while, I thought I was cursed. I thought that like I was going to die for sure. Like I started going on trips and being like, it's going to happen on this trip. Like I remember leaving my dad in the airport and being so choked up and just like bawling, walking away. Like my time's come. Like I can just feel it. Like it's going to happen. And then being so cautious in the mountains and like doing everything I do, I just was like, it's going to happen to me. It's happened to all my friends. Like what, like, yeah. And then I was like, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's people that I have a connection with. Like weird shit goes through your head. And I think time ultimately heals that stuff. But you're never healed completely. Like I think about these friends a lot and it gives me a lot of, I try to smile mostly when I think about them, but like, yeah, it's fucking hard. Like, especially your best friend. Like Timmy was like such a gem of a human. He didn't give a shit what people thought of him. He'd say whatever. I've never met anyone so much more themselves. It was a beautiful thing. And yeah, but I think with Timmy too, like, he knew that he wasn't going to be around for a long time. We spoke about it. we knew that he wanted bagpipes at his memorial service. He didn't want a memorial service, but he was like, but my mom's going to want one, so we got to have bagpipes. Like, we knew this stuff, and that was really weird, but it was also comforting. He had a really rough road, like, went down some different paths and came out, like, totally on top. Base jumping became his new drug, and yeah, it just takes time. It takes time, and it takes being around people that you love to, like, get you back into that place. I don't know if I have, like, a ton of wisdom behind it, but yeah.
I think they all do hit different, huh?
Yeah, totally. They hit different. You learn. Like, the first one, I was a wreck. I was just, like, crying nonstop, and, like, yeah, you just kind of grow from it. I don't know.
Yeah. I do notice old people seem to take it really well, though, when their friends pass. They're a little more used to it.
Yeah, maybe they've lived, like, a long life.
More.
Yeah, they're just like, eh.
Yeah, there's a couple things I noticed, too. I think the younger, when I first time dealing with it, my issue was the lack of acceptance. That I think acceptance is
Accepting that
the
the
person's
thing
gone.
that happened, yeah. But the other, and the flip side of things, the thing I think is good about it, though, I mean, if you ever go to a funeral, it really reprioritizes what's important.
Yeah.
Right? It gives you that perspective of, oh shit, I thought my TPS report was important, or whatever bullshit you got going on.
What is a TPS report?
I'm not entirely sure about that.
That was a good example.
It's something to do with something, but like you said, bullshit paperwork, I forgot to, whatever the fuck it is, that stupid thing that keeps you up. We'll say TPS report, yeah. But then you're like, yeah, no, actually, I got to spend more time with my family and friends and like enjoy that.
Yeah. It gets your priorities in line for sure.
The connections are what life's about, and you got to remember that.
Yeah. And spending quality time with people, like, put your phones down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to give someone like concrete advice how to deal with it, because I think everyone is different and takes it different.
Well, that's
sometimes it takes longer too to even set in.
Yeah.
That's great advice in itself.
Yeah, I guess.
Totally.
Everybody's road looks different because,
and let them do it their way,
Some people are still stuck in a place, and maybe you've kind of grieved past it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, like, ultimately bringing it back to what we were talking about earlier, like, actually letting yourself feel all of that stuff and, like, get help if you need. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Reach out.
Yeah, talking about it.
Yeah.
The self-awareness is also a good one, too. I've noticed that you go through a thing where you're like, if you can be really clear, you're saying, why am I sad right now? I'm sad because I miss my friend. That's okay. That's a healthy emotion. I'm sad because I miss my friend. Not, I'm beating myself up because I could have done something differently.
Yeah.
That's an unhealthy emotion.
A lot of people have that problem.
That's an unhealthy.
Get past that.
Totally.
Yeah. Good stuff. Another note I have here is some of the Red Bull camps that you've done. I know you did a crazy breath clinic with Ian Walsh, and you went to like Australia with some Marines or some shit like that.
That was crazy.
What did you tell us about that?
Yeah, so like aligning yourself with sponsors that truly want to see you succeed, like Red Bull's, they've got my back no matter what, and I know that. And a part of me feels like I was a little bit of a lab rat for them. Like, we're always going down there getting our blood drawn, like they're sending it in to see if we have this special gene that helps you deal with pressure, and like
really,
they're like studying us.
We had science down.
Totally. They had this incredible like director of their whole athletic program named Andy Walsh, and he is Australian, and he just thought outside the box. Like, he would put us through these really high stress situations, much mirroring that of like buds if you were training to be a Navy SEAL. So like this Australia trip was like the furthest reach for anything. Like we ended up going with myself, Greta Eliasson, and Tara, two other like professional females that are on Red Bull, and they designed this trip. Basically, they took a satellite image of Earth at night and they put us on the piece of land that was like the least surrounded by lights. So like there's no interruptions, like you're in the middle of nowhere, and that happened to be Northwest Australia in the Kimberley. And it's this beautiful landscape, and it took them a year to plan this trip, and they actually had to ask the local Aboriginal tribe for permission to be on this land, and they incorporated the Aboriginal tribe, and the tribe actually accepted us because it was all women. So they had this like beautiful, Leah was her name, and she was like a tribal leader, and she kind of welcomed us onto the land, and it was really spiritual. But the whole premise behind it is that we didn't know like anything, like any day, we didn't know what we were gonna do. So that really helped you and forced you to be in the moment. But mind you, they gave us CAT scans before and after the trip too to study how our brains changed. Then we were with a couple of Navy SEALs, and Yeah, one of them, Peter, he like became like my dad. Pete's like freaking Pete Naschak. He's the master chief, and he and I was like reading a book about Navy SEALs on the way over there, and then all of a sudden his name's in it, and I'm like, whoa, I'm going on a trip with Pete Naschak. Like, this is so cool. And he just became like a father figure, really. But like every day we had no idea what we were doing. We ended up walking for like 2 weeks in the middle of the outback. And they were just testing us. Sometimes they'd make us stay up for 24 hours and walk through 115-degree weather. Like, there's saltwater crocodiles. We're like walking through mangroves. Like, it's kind of scary and kind of real. And then at one point at the end of the trip, we got on this boat and we just start going out into the middle of the ocean. And the boat is like no bigger than this table. Like, it's a little skiff basically. And we brought an extra engine and we're like cruising out to we left at midnight. So it's the middle of the night in the middle of the ocean, 400 miles away from land. And we're just like cruising. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not an ocean person. Like, we're out here. And I'm like, but better to be out here with a couple of Navy SEALs than anyone else. And I look over to my buddy Brad and I'm like, dude, what if there's like pirates and shit out here? Like, what if we get caught? And he's like, I was like, I guess we're with the right people. And he's like, you're with the right people. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, Captain Phillips, I saved him. I was like, holy shit,
Wow.
You're the guy? And he like showed me a photo of him and Captain Phillips chilling. He's like, he said he signed a 70-year NDA that he wouldn't speak about it. Like, that's all the information he gave me. But I'm like, okay, we're with the right people. Like, we're going to be okay.
70-year NDA.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, like that trip was like, basically they just wanted to test us in high pressure situations and see how we would react and then apply that to your sport. And like every day the Navy SEALs would give us a question that we had to think about, which I think are really important questions for all of us to have sorted out. Like what is your purpose in life? You got to think about those things. That's a big question. What is your mission statement? Why do you do what you do? Like, all these things, you think about them while you walked for 24 hours. And like, I don't know, that's like an example of what they do for their athletes. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever done, for sure.
Did they learn anything from the research and the CAT scans and all that?
Yeah, like going into it, I think probably because I do like type 2 fun, like my brain waves were actually quite similar to that of the Navy SEALs. 2 of the girls were not at all. And those 2 girls both of them had like full on breakdowns like mid-trip.
On the trip.
Yeah. And then overcame that and like got back to like this really dope spot. Like, you were psyched to be out there with them, and their brain waves changed to be like the Navy SEALs from not, because they were exposing themselves to all these different things where they had to lose control. You had to be in the present moment, and like there was you had no control, and it was really uncomfortable. Like, everything is trying to eat you in Australia. Like, whether
it's like
that's
the hardest
plants,
land you can possibly be
totally
in, right?
Yeah.
Craziest stuff going on.
So crazy. But yeah, that trip was just a small example of what they do with their athletes. It's pretty cool.
So they're not even filming or anything. This is just research. Like,
dude, we filmed the whole thing.
Oh, they did film it.
Yeah,
okay.
and I don't think I've ever seen the like footage really.
It's
like,
just
complete.
research, really.
Totally.
I had no clue they had that department.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly, you said type 2 fun.
Yeah.
Never heard that before.
Yeah, me neither.
Really? Mm-mm. Oh, we should have some type 2 fun,
y'all. What is type 2 fun?
It's like when it's not really that fun. But it's fun afterwards.
Yeah. So basically like summiting Denali, would that be type 2
totally.
fun? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
You're voluntarily
Type 2
suffering
fun.
through it. Type 1 is like, we're all just having a good time. Type 2 is like, it's not fun
Type
until
2
afterwards.
fun. You learn
It's
something
not
new
fun
every
until
day.
you look back at it and think on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's makes sense.
And then you forget about the shitty times and you want to do it again. That's your problem.
Totally. Do you feel like every time you do that, it builds your confidence to be like, oh, I can do whatever?
Yeah, for sure. Like, okay, I've walked up to 21,000 feet with no oxygen and I did that just fine. Like, yeah, it sucked. It was a struggle, but like, I know I can do it. Mm-hmm. And then what can you do more? Like, you're just building upon this experience. That's like been my entire career.
Yeah, it builds your ability. There's also something that's different about that stuff where I noticed this, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, all right, I'll say this. Snowboarding is very fucking loose and unstructured. You're like, what are you going to do today? I don't know. I might try to do a 7 on the jump. I might try to backflip this rail. Probably going to get up there at like 10 and like fuck around it. It's like you get good, but it's not like this very formulaic process where I feel like mountaineering, rock climbing, it's very like analytical minded. Like, okay, I'm summiting Denali, so this week I'm going to do 25 miles and I'm going to acclimate and I'm going to eat this. And it's like very regimented. Whereas do you find comfort? Do you find that it's more regimented than our loose way of doing things?
Yeah, I mean, for like the majority of my career, I haven't been a goal setter.
Yeah,
I've been like, I'm just gonna go have fun, like whatever that entails. I'm gonna learn new tricks, sure, like whatever, but like I'm just gonna go have fun. it wasn't until Denali that I had like a concrete goal of like, we want to go to the top of that mountain. Like that's the goal. And that really, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like in climbing, you have goals all the time. You're like, I want to climb this grade, or you have a project. I'm specifically focusing on this climb. It's super analytical. It's super focused. Like probably too much for me. Like I am less structured and I kind of like the free flowing of it. I'm very spontaneous and down with that. But yeah, it's kind of cool to like, so then I guess after Denali, I started setting these summertime goals. I still like skiing to be free flowing and just to do whatever I want to do and whatever brings me joy. But in the summertime, I've started setting like, I usually enter at least one bike event every summer. And that's like coming off a knee injury. Like the one way that I got my muscle back is long distance road biking and training for an event that was like a 100-mile race or whatever. So those goals help me like drive towards just being more healthy. And I'm super kinesthetic. I can't stop moving. So that's kind of my way of doing stuff. I think you're probably the same.
No, totally. Yeah. No, I think that's cool as you get older, because that stuff, when I was like 16 or something, I was like, if you're going to tell me I'm going to do a 100-mile road race, I'd be like, dude, you are stupid. That is awful.
That's some type 2 fun, huh?
But as you get older, that does sound kind of fun. And the fact of the matter is like, all right, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to bike 5 miles today. On Thursday, I'm going to bike 10. On Monday, I'm going to bike, or whatever. Next week, my goal is to do, a 20-mile ride, and I'm going to eat this way. I'm going to build up to this race, and I'm going to, kind of like put together a marathon training program. And I think that's pretty cool.
It's cool because you're throwing yourself into the unknown too. Like I'm not a bike racer. Like I'm just going to show up and it's going to be fucking hard. I'm going to go through all the emotions. Like I did the Trans-Cascadia last year, my first enduro, and that's like it's kind of a wild enduro. Like it's 4 days, I think, and you're like climbing the most vert I've ever done on my mountain bike. And like then you're racing and you're going as fast as you can. There's a fine line between like eating shit and it being detrimental to like you actually nailing the line. Like you're really letting it hang out there. And I went through all the emotions. I was like sad, crying on the descent, and then like so hyped, and then like I'm gonna fucking win this stage, and like everything. But that's like the coolest thing, to throw yourself into the unknown. That's when you are vulnerable and you learn about yourself and you meet new people. Like that's the shit. I love throwing yourself into the unknown.
I got a Patreon question for you. Being this multifaceted athlete that you are, this is from Travis Flippin. Is Lake Tahoe better in the summer or winter?
Ooh, great question. I think people come for the winter and then stay because of the summer. It's a pretty great year-round destination. I think that, to be quite honest, we're dealing with a lot of forest fires and climate change issues right now that are pretty scary. So like last 2 years in August, all of August, it was like fully smoky. You couldn't go outside. Forests are closed. Like it feels really ominous. It's really scary to live in a fire-prone area. So yeah, I think I'm going with winter, but I'm a winter sports person. I love it when it's snowy and cold. And
does Tahoe even have winter anymore?
I mean, yeah, December was really our winter. Yeah, that was wild last year.
I remember in my youth, man, we'd go out there all the time, like all season long.
Yeah.
And it just slowly progressed now to a month of winter.
I think that California...
It's coming back.
It's coming back. We're going to see it go up and down, but California is definitely poised to experience a lot of these climate natural disasters, I think, more than a lot of places. And yeah, it's pretty obvious living there.
Yeah. Any deniers of global warming, I think we got some proof that it's heading.
Yeah, I think like politically we're past that. They're no longer denying.
Oh, are they not denying that anymore?
We're having conversations about solutions. Hopefully, I mean, there's Tom McClintock, who represents like California Congress. He's our congressman, District 4. He's a denier for sure. He told me to vote with my feet and move if I didn't agree with his policies. I was like, that's very insulting coming from a politician.
Really?
Yeah.
Vote with your feet and move.
Yeah. That wasn't cool. But
wow.
Yeah, we're solution oriented now. Yeah, there we go.
I think it's time for, Butts?
Oof. Time to crack a cold brew, I think.
Time for the pub beer crapshoot.
I've been waiting for this
for a
while, right?
Crack some can out there.
Oof.
Cheers, buds.
Cheers.
It's an honor to be here with you.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of Tech Nine.
We're very honored.
You too.
Oh, Tech Nine.
Yeah,
if you know
Fletch.
Fletch
fan out though.
If you know Fletch and Goddardam too, and it's pretty awesome.
Messy.
Yeah, I was gonna say you must have went to school with Messy too. Huh?
Yeah, he's still a homie. I really enjoy hanging with him.
A dope human.
Tahoe OGs.
Cheers. Spilled some.
Yeah, how's
my
that?
shirt.
How was it, bud?
It's delicious. It's cheap. It's fun. Never a bad time. Let's go. Pub beer.
Pub beer, if you're thinking about getting absolutely annihilated or having one beer responsibly, what are you going to go with, buds?
Pub beer every time.
Every time. Okay.
Welcome to the Pub Beer Crab Shoot.
You can roll 2 dice.
All right.
And you're going to tell us what you roll. If you roll a Goon Gear logo, that's a 6. And then we'll tell you what question you have to answer.
All right, I'm going 5-6.
You played some CeeLo in your day?
A little bit. We got
You got a
7.
7.
7, this is a good question. Who's one of your favorite people to party with?
Oh, you know what? Back in the day, I'm going to throw it back to JP Auclair. What a great partier. What a great human.
Professional partier.
Just a funny person to be around.
Now, some people aren't the greatest partiers, but some people are just epic partiers.
Yeah, totally. They just make you laugh. Oh, I got to say Aaron Blatt, too.
Yeah,
Love
he's-
partying it up with him.
He's pretty good with it.
Yeah.
He's got a black belt in partying.
He does, totally.
He does.
It doesn't happen together as often as I kind of would like it to be honest, but.
I think he's the first person I ever seen take the whiskey cap and throw it into the fire.
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic move.
It makes it explode or what?
No, it just means you have to finish the bottle of whiskey and you end up getting just
because you
obliterated.
can't close it.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he'll just crack one and throw it in the fire.
Yeah, yep, and you're going to be basically pie-eyed.
Good night.
Guaranteed, yeah.
Wow, dude, that's an amazing...
That's a move.
Yeah, it's an amazing move. I wonder who taught him that, or did he invent that, or...
I think that's a
It's
known
probably an
thing.
old, cowboy move.
Totally.
I think if you look under Aaron Blatt Wikipedia,
It's in there.
the direct definition is man who invented throwing whiskey cap
That'd be
into
so
fire.
sick.
He's been chilling lately. Yeah.
You know, we all get older and mellow out a bit, and
Totally.
can't keep that rate up.
Yeah,
like you
that's
used to.
true.
I mean, some people do, I guess, but...
Yeah.
Well, I have another guest question from a dear friend of mine, also a fellow skier and friend of the show as well, Matt Sturbins. Here we go.
Yes.
And yeah, just for the listeners, I wanted to ask you a question about your keys to staying authentic. I've just, obviously growing up alongside you in North Lake Tahoe, it's been incredible to see what you have been able to accomplish in your career, but yet you've always been able to maintain a very singular point of view, and I think you've inspired a lot of other skiers that you've come across, and just kind of wanted to hear you talk a little bit about your approach to skiing and how you've been able to maintain so true. Congratulations. Can't wait to listen. See ya.
Sturbins. That's going way back. Yeah, he was there in the beginning. He was so supportive from the beginning, too. Really love that guy. It's been cool to see his path and to connect with him here and there. Staying true to it. I think, again, just I'm passionate about learning. If there's one thing, I didn't go to college, but I read a lot of books. I love learning. I love diving into something. And I love also, not doing things super softly. I like diving in. I want to be the best that I can be at whatever I'm aiming towards. Oftentimes that goes towards athletics, and I think Aaron's helped open up my mind into, music and art and other stuff, but photography, whatever that is. But yeah, constantly learning new skill sets within your career path. And then that develops you as an individual into having so much inspiration moving forward. And I think that that's been my key. And I had a lot of great influences growing up too. I keep going back to JP, and I just got to shout him out so much because he was the first person that was ever take an avalanche course. You want to go film? Take an avalanche course. And he kind of guided me in that direction. And I think at the time that we were really close, we shared some sponsors, and he just it was just learned by watching. He was a mentor, but probably didn't know it too much. But his approach to everything was he would edit his own video parts. He would place the classical music to the powder song that hadn't been done. He was just inspirational all around. Really fun to be around. Constantly learning. He has done everything within the ski industry. Have you guys seen his street part in Nelson? Ooh, that's a good piece of skiing history to watch. That's a good one.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, I think you'd like it a lot. But yeah, having good influences, the industry, as wild as it may seem, I remember my first ever trip away from my parents that wasn't supervised was with Brad Holmes, and he's he was really tight with Palmer growing up. They were a rowdy bunch.
Yeah,
And
I heard he's pretty rowdy. Brad
totally.
Holmes,
Yeah, and my dad just loved him. Was like, yeah, you can go on a trip with Brad Holmes. Just like, you can go. I filmed with him for a movie called Star Skis and Hucks. And
wow,
solid name.
Yeah,
Jeez,
great name.
That's the best ski name I've heard to date.
But like, I'm like 17. I'm like, sweet, like first unchaperoned trip. Get in the truck. My dad's like waving from the front yard, and Brad just like thumbs a beer and hands it to me. He's like, shotgun this. But like, I learned like how to maintain that too with all these guys. Like, everyone looked out for you. You had a bunch of older brothers and sisters, and like the industry really, like people like Sturbance supporting you from day one. Never any doubt. That guy always supported. Like, that was so cool. But that goes back to what we need to pass on too, is like be a good influence and mentor people and teach them. And yeah, we'll all be better because of it.
Very well articulated answer to a question. I love that. And while you were talking about that, you just kind of mentioned that this is the reason why I got into guiding. And I want you to kind of explain why you wanted to get trained to be a guide and why people should know about the mountains, I guess.
Yeah, so I was 21 when I took my first avalanche course, and that was fully JP's like, oh, you want to be a filmer? Like, you have to do this. Like, I remember I spent a lot of time up here in Utah, and we'd film straight rails and then go build jumps and stuff, but I didn't know jack shit about avalanches. I lost my first 2 friends to avalanches when I was 12. They didn't know anything about it. They skied off the backside of Palisades into Alpine, and they were buried 5 feet apart. It was, like, shocking. I was like, what is an avalanche? And obviously through skiing, like I've seen that a lot. It kind of got to a point where I was like, I just have to accept the fact that like I might be first on scene for some of this stuff. It might be me. That's part of something you have to like think about when you're out there. Pardon me, I was gonna burp, but I decided not to. But yeah, so I took my first avalanche course. It was with AK Heli Skiing. It was called Guide School. We did our avalanche level 1, your woofer, and crevasse rescue. It was amazing. I was so psyched on that. I left that class, and the last scenario, like you always get these scenarios, and the last one was like the ultimate scenario. There was multiple languages being spoken, head injuries, back injuries, like multiple burials, some people with beacons, some people without beacons. We flailed. We came up short, and I was pretty disappointed in myself for not like acing it, but I also was like, walked away, and I was like, that would never happen. Like, that'd be so crazy. That summer, I go down to Argentina, and I'm coaching in a summer camp, and one of our campers triggered an avalanche, and he was buried, and there was reported that there was 2 others buried without beacons that were 12-year-old kids, and Randall was, he's amazing, shout out to Randall, but he was buried 3 feet under for, I think it was like 7 minutes and 57 seconds, and we responded to that, and it was the ultimate scenario. We were in a different country. The ski patrol at the time didn't know how to use their beacon. Their beacons were turned on, so we were like going up, doing the search, and getting them, picking them up. We're like, turn your beacons off. Like, we've got this. We know, we're trained. We like found them. We like rescued them. But it was just an affirmation of like, we need to be freaking trained up. Like, these are people's lives. We're playing with nature. Nature doesn't give a shit how much money you make, how many followers you have on Instagram. Like, nature's the ultimate humbler. And so it became really important to me. And by the way, the 2 other kids that were 12 that were buried without beacons, they were found later. They had skied off and not told their parents. But so that was like the ultimate slap in the face of like, we really need to be on this shit. And we also need to spread that awareness, and we need to be open and vulnerable about this because we learn from each other. And then, yeah, years later, I guess I started taking avalanche courses every year. Like, once a year, let's brush up on this. And then 10 years ago, myself and a couple other ladies got together, and we started talking about creating a space where women specifically could feel really empowered to use their voice and to find their voice in the mountains and also gain that knowledge and experience on their own. So we started Safe As clinics, and we've reached, probably like close to 2,000 individuals through these clinics. We try to keep them really cost effective. It's an intro into avalanche level 1, and it's been a great program. It's been really cool. We've opened it up for all genders. We have 1 women specific day and then another 2 days usually at each location. And that's kind of been my give back to the community. Like, I want to, that's like my mentorship. Like, if I can do that on a large scale, that's awesome. It's been really gratifying. It's a lot of hard work. We're like running events, but another avenue you can take your career in. Like, you can do whatever you want, like host events. That's cool. But yeah, it's super important to continue to study. All of this knowledge is perishable. If we don't use it, you lose it. So keep sharp on that. Like, always studying it up. It's really fun to learn too, and the information is constantly developing. So like, if you can check back in every other year and take a course, like, that's really important.
What country did the skiers not know how to use their beacons?
That was in Argentina.
Sketchy.
Yeah. I think it's really important to note that, like, yeah, we don't do things the same everywhere.
Yeah.
For sure. When you're
It's
traveling.
an important lesson, right?
Yeah.
To share with everybody.
I mean, I've been on so many trips where you hire a guide and you're like, whoa, this is not a guide.
Yeah, he's not a guide.
Yeah. How we certify guides or whatever. So
It's almost like a money grab in some of those countries. Like, yeah, we'll take you out there and pay us this much money.
I mean, in Japan, we hired this guide, and it turns out he was like an urban guide. He took us to all the best restaurants, but like didn't know shit in the mountains. Yeah. So I think like
he's a restaurant guy.
Yeah, he was so good at that too. But yeah, we paid him a lot. But knowing your shit, like we're all on a team out there, and I think the backcountry is becoming more and more popular, and the gear we have is making it more accessible. And I think it's easy to point fingers and be like, well, that person doesn't know what they're doing. But what if you approached it in a different way and you walked up to them and you were like, hey, I noticed that like your beacon's on the outside of your jacket. Mm-hmm. Like, let me help you out with this and explain why, and be open and conversational. And I love asking questions on the skin track because it helps me learn. Mm-hmm. And it also makes me seem like communication skills, right? Like if you're going to tell someone what to do, that doesn't come off that good. But if you ask them a question like, why do you feel safe right now? Like that's a great way to open up the conversation, and for them to then feel like you can stroke their ego a little bit, and they're like, oh, I get to share with you my knowledge that I have of the mountains. And if you're with people that don't want to have that conversation, you've got the wrong partners. Like it's cool to be well informed, and it's really cool to share that knowledge. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're a team out there.
Or when you see people like they keep their beacon in their backpack or in their pocket.
Yeah.
It's just they just have no
the
idea.
Pocket's okay, actually.
If your jacket rips off, it's not okay though.
Your pants pocket?
If it's tied in, it's okay, but not a cargo pocket, like anything that might get stripped off. Yeah, but yeah, you're exactly right.
Jackets can get ripped off pretty easy.
Totally. Yeah.
I love that statement too, because you see it so much. I never even actually picked up on it, but you see you're going through the mountains, and there's, I would say that generally we're with an experienced group of people that have some experience, and you'll be somebody's like, oh God, look at this idiot that's over here that doesn't know that they're doing something stupid. And that's the tone of approaching it. And I really like the approach of like a little bit more, not so abrasive.
Yeah. The more you know, like,
like, hey, I noticed that like you're underneath the cornice here. Just want to like, if it does go, this could be really dangerous or whatever it is, but not like, oh, you're so stupid for being on this cornice. Cause there is that sense of like moral superiority. Oh, I know my ego is fucking
I know this cornice is
especially,
safe
as you see it was a lot of schemo and stuff like that, but
yeah, like ditch the ego.
Yep.
Yeah. Mountains don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love the mountains for that reason.
Totally. And
that's mountains are boss.
The ability to ditch the ego too. You also said earlier, you're like, I'm not, I really like to learn. And I would almost directly correlate somebody's drive to want to learn to non-attachment to their ego, because the ego says you already know.
Totally.
The ego says you're right.
There's two types of people, the knowers and the learners.
Yes.
Be a learner.
Yep.
Yeah, because change is good.
Mm-hmm.
Change is change is good. We need that.
100%. I always love the analogy when somebody's like, man, like, you've changed. You're like, good.
Yeah.
You want me to be the same as I was when I was 18?
Totally.
But I don't know. Unfortunately, I think Buds and I are a little bit more like fucking 12-year-olds still.
Same here, though.
I'm 12 for life, dog.
For life. But that's good. You can't lose that childlike sense of fun.
All right. It's a good time to get into hot takes. We do this. She's a skier, so we're going to adjust a little bit. But Michael Jordan or GOAT to you, we'll say. Both male and female skiing. Who you got?
All right, skiing. I'm gonna go JP again, more or less because he's done every avenue of skiing. I think that's really cool. For women, I have a hard time with this because I just love all of them, but I'm putting Ingrid Backstrom up there. I think she was like the lady that came before me on the filming side of things and really pushed those boundaries and paved the way. And I'll also go Sarah Burke for sure. I think Sarah Burke is a deserved GOAT for life.
Great answer. Park or Powder?
Powder.
All right. Who's the most underrated?
Most underrated. Ooh. That's a tricky one. I think there's a lot of up-and-comers that I'm pretty impressed by right now. You know what? Shout out to Tay Taylor.
Tay.
It's her birthday today. Happy birthday. Yeah, I think she's just such a wonderful human being. And I actually got to spend a little bit of time with her this year in France where we hung out with Coco or Colleen Ballet-Baz. And I think she's pretty underrated too. So, yeah.
Great answers. Best style. Who you got?
Best style. Man, I kind of have this like old, just like when I was growing up watching Sean Pettit, I was like so hyped on everything he was doing. Like he was such a goat at that age too. Like he was a child prodigy, and he was the first person that I ever saw go to Alaska and just absolutely like, he was amazing the first year he went there. Usually that takes years of experience, but I dig everything that he's got going on. He's kind of taken his own path, and I appreciate it. Yeah, but there's this young lady named Jenny Lee. She's from Sweden, and she's got pretty dope style these days. I'm pretty hyped on that.
Solid. Love that. If you could see one musical artist, dead or alive, who'd you go see?
Well, I think I answered this in the Patreon earlier, but I really missed out on this Wu-Tang concert when I was younger. And like with the whole group, I think that would be absolutely amazing. And high on the list of people to watch is also Willie Nelson. He's got a great autobiography that'll get you pretty hyped on him. Yeah, Willie Nelson's up there. I really love Lucas Nelson too. Like, yeah, that whole family. I think they do it for the people and for the pure passion of loving music. But Jimi Hendrix. Final answer.
3 at us. That's good.
Jimi Hendrix. Final answer.
All respectable. I caught a Willie Nelson concert like 4 years ago.
You did. How was it?
I would like to see him in his prime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this. I might get absolutely skewered for saying this. I've been to a Wu-Tang concert, and I'm just going to say this. There's a lot of people talking on the stage at once. It's like
heavy. And the whole crew's around.
The whole crew is yelling.
But if ODB could be there with the whole
crew. I didn't see with ODB. Yeah, that's a
that
good point.
would be a very memorable moment.
All
of them together would be nuts.
A lot of yelling happening, but very great.
Because there's a lot of concerts when like 3 of them show up or 5 of them show up. You never get the whole clan.
Totally.
And now you can't get the whole clan. So
that was like one of my first CDs ever. I don't know how I stumbled across the Wu-Tang Clan, but I was like, oh, these guys they've got it going on. And then I went really deep into like the Bay Area rap scene. Loved that.
Too Short, maybe?
Yeah, Nicotina, Mac Dre.
Yeah, Mac Dre.
That was good.
R.I.P.
Okay, first video that sparked it all.
First video that sparked it all that I watched.
Did you have like a video that influenced you growing up that you watched a bunch?
I think like growing up in Tahoe, the Matchstick movies were like super easily rentable. But I also got to shout out Standard Films because Victoria was in there. And Victoria, like, I credit her with, like, my desire to go to Alaska and perfect the turn. And watching her ride was just, like, otherworldly for me. I want to see a Victoria come back. I've spoken about that with some people that she knows. Like, can we just, like, bring her back? Like,
you know that turn still looks good.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's got to.
Beautiful.
I got one more hot take. You probably have more.
I got 2 more.
He's got 2 more. I got one sneaky one to throw in. I used to do half pipe, right?
Yeah.
Ski poles or no poles in the pipe?
I love it all. Whatever you want to do that makes you happy. Yeah.
There's no hate.
She's kind of a Louis Vito. That's a Louis Vito answer.
I'm being very Switzerland about it.
Yeah. What did you do?
I always had poles. I prefer skiing with poles.
Seems weird grabbing with poles in your hands.
A lot
to hold. What the heck carry out there.
We're talented individuals. We can do that.
Right.
But I think like if you're gonna go no poles, like keep it tight. Like I like style a lot. I think growing up, like I was never a spin to win. I just liked having good style. So yeah, keep it tight.
So the poles, we've talked about this on the show. One of the benefits of poles is pointing at stuff too. You can point at all the mountains and say, oh, you can flex your knowledge of the mountain range.
I love snowboarders talking about poles. And then when you go splitboarding, they're all like clapping them together.
Yeah,
this is what you guys do, right?
So
and you know, you can test the condition of the snow. You can smack it. You can say,
poles are useful. You can dig little hasty pits, test out the snowpack.
There's a lot of uses for these poles.
The more you go splitboarding, the more adjectives I hear for describing the type of snow.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I didn't even know that word existed. Yeah. It's a very learned bunch there in the mountains. Okay, we're still doing hot takes here. So if you go heliboarding with 3 people, somebody told me we were fucking up because you can bring 4, but
one's a guide.
Well, if you got me, I'm really small, so I can sit in the front seat, the jump seat with the guide, so you can put 4 in the back.
They
don't do that much anymore.
Where they let you do that, yeah. There's the pilot, there's the guide, and then there's the back row.
And then if you ask politely and you like bat your eyes, then maybe they'll put a little jump seat up there, so there's 2 in front. But it's a weight thing with like all the camera stuff. Like They're not.
We're
really
gonna stick with the original question.
Who was
then
telling you you're messing up?
I can't remember. Some.
They probably weren't thinking of the guide or the pilot. You need to
somebody's
pilot.
like, hey man, you got to redo your heliboarding question because you can bring 4 people. You've been blowing it.
Maybe he was in like some Euro or Russian helicopter.
Yeah, he's probably Russian. That's probably the situation. So if you're in a non-Russian helicopter and you can only bring 3 people, who are you bringing?
Wow. Oh, that's a hard one too. So many friends. Okay, dead or alive?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Timmy Dutton, Shane McConkey, and those are 2 really good ones.
Willie Nelson. Sorry.
Man, Willie might slow us down a little bit, which would be cool. Whatever. But the other person, I'd probably want to go with Ingrid Backstrom because I tried really hard to film with her when I was younger, and we never got to. So I'd really appreciate that.
I'd probably go with these 3 people: Bone, Thugs, and Harmony.
Oh, yeah.
How many people are in Bone Thugs?
Hopefully 3.
There's Busy Bone.
I have no clue.
I want to say like 5, but I
think
could
all
be
the
wrong.
harmony going on
Yeah.
in that copter.
What I would do is I'd get a Russian helicopter and I'd bring the whole Wu-Tang clan.
Yeah, the whole Wu-Tang clan in a Russian copter.
That'd be a riot.
That'd probably the best heli ride of your life, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Worst trend. What do you got?
Hate. Stop hating. Yeah.
Shred the hate.
Erase the hate.
Yeah.
I like it. Solid answer. Okay. Now, we always ask our guests the setups. What setup do you rock when you go skiing? You can run through your whole gamut of, head to toe and skis and clunky cinder block boots that you guys call ski boots.
Classic. I love the Atris Birdie. It's a ski by Black Crows. That's been my go-to. I find when I veer away from it, I always come back to it. It's kind of the one. It works. So that's my ski. And then typically I run the Solomon MTN binding for hiking. Really trust that thing. Watch Cody Townsend huck himself off 60-footers with it. It releases when needed. I love that thing. It's a pin binding. I don't know if you guys know about those, but that's what we use to hike up mountains.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Then I got Pomoka skins, best skins in the game. You guys should both be on those too if you're hiking.
There's a better skin than another skin?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like some, they're also like, you want to get the ones that are good for climbing if you're on an icy skin track and you're new. I see a lot of people slipping all around and your skin choice matters.
I like the ones that are pre-cut for me, you know what I mean?
There you go, yeah. Yeah, that's good. Boots, I have typically lately been running this Technica. I should know the name of it, and I'm spacing it right now, but it's been the most high-performance backcountry boot that I can find for me. I need that flex. It's like a 130 flex, but they just made it in a smaller size, so shout out to Technica for doing that. I think next year I'll be on some boots that actually fit me, which I'm excited about. And then I think they're the 0 Gs. And then Arc'teryx outerwear, for sure. It's the best design stuff. That company is amazing. They're going towards fully circular, which means like you buy something, if you send it back to them, they'll recycle it. They'll also repair it and resell it. They have like a shop where you can get kind of secondhand stuff that's been revamped. I think that's the future of fashion. Like,
yeah.
Vintage, I love that trend. I also love like these fully circular, like wear it until it's totally KO'd. So I use shell everything, no insulation until I have a little micro puff that I'll throw on there. Usually merino wool, base layers, darn tough socks. Treat your feet right. No cotton socks out there. We got to get that merino wool. Darn tough's cool too. They're like make all their socks in the U.S. They have a company. I think they've got like close to 500 employees in Northfield, Vermont, and it's like a Willy Wonka factory in the sock factory. It's like so cool. They have a really core following and just a really good company that gives back. And then I've got Anon goggles with the Magnatech. That's a dope feature on these goggles. Change your lenses real easy. Anon helmet. What else do I have? Usually a Red Bull. And then, that seems pretty complete.
Nailing it.
I prefer cotton out there. They call
yeah,
you do.
He used to call me the Cotton Kid back in the day.
They call him the Cottonmouth King, actually.
No, I switched over long ago to no cotton. And wow, what a life!
What a life it is.
Yeah, what a life.
Yes.
Well, you didn't talk about snowboard setup.
Oh, snowboard set it.
You getting free boards for anybody?
Burton's been kind enough to float me some boards. Yeah, I won my first snowboard, which is one of my favorites, the Jones Hovercraft, at an auction. That was really dope, and I ran that for a long time. But right now I'm on like the family tree split board that I've got, and some Burton, I think they're the Supremes, the boots that I'm running. And then I went full, not volet, but what's the other one?
Sparks? For
Sparks,
the
yeah, Spark bindings. I find those to be really comfortable, user-friendly. Again, Pomoka skins, and I run the same outerwear and everything.
What kind of rope are you running and climbing? Just kidding, I don't know anything about climbing.
Man, I don't know.
Carabiners.
No, but mountain bikes, you got a specialized deal too?
Oh, yeah, specialized bikes for life.
Yeah, they are the shit.
They're the shit,
I have
man.
a specialized. Yeah.
Woo! Just got on that e-bike. Have you been playing on an e-bike?
No, I know, because it's like a
Trying to
drug.
get up on
Because
an
once
e-bike.
you get an e-bike, you're like your other bike becomes useless. Basically,
It is so fun. I've been riding my analog bike.
Oh, you
a lot
have?
too.
Okay.
Yeah, I mostly run the Stumpy, the Evo, but I've got the Kenevo SL now, and I've just found that I don't really take rest days anymore because you can just you're like, oh, we got the e-bike, we can just go out. So much fun, and plus like you shuttle less. Like I've been doing climbs that I would normally shuttle on them. You can do it conversational pace. Like there's a lot of hate towards them. I don't really know why.
I don't know why
see like my friends' parents out there, and I'm like, you made it to the top of Painted Rock. Like that's so cool. I love it. Yeah, it's making it more accessible.
We went to the zone that it was a really awesome trail system, and it had, in the middle of it had a fire road that people were shuttling with cars. And I think we did 2 full laps on the day on an analog bike. And we didn't actually go up the road. We pedaled up the trails, but we would see these e-bikers, and they would rip the trail and then pedal up the road, and rip the trail and pedal up the road, and rip the trail. And I was like, man, like this thing makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah. Yeah. They're so much fun. I've been digging it.
You do a lot. You basically just do longer miles. Like instead of doing 20 miles, you'll do 60 or something, right? Like
yeah, totally. It makes everything accessible. You're hitting new trails that you never thought you'd be able to do anymore. It's like really fun. And I've been using it to like commute. Like if I'm going to Olympic Valley, I'll like ride single track from my house up and over and then go there. I'm like, well, that was like 10 times more fun, less cars on the road. Like there's benefits there. Yeah. It's so fun.
I was at my local Savvy last night around midnight. There was a gang of 12-year-olds, and there was a kid on a electric scooter, and then an e-bike and a moped. And these kids look bad just cruising around at 12 years old. I was like, this kid's got the life these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I have like a cruiser e-bike that I cruise in town with too. And like, that is a traffic avoidance, just a big old smile on your face. Like, I wish communities could like supply e-bikes for everyone, and like that's some forward
I feel like
thinking.
I saw that somewhere. A bunch of e-bikes that were usable. Yeah. Oh, it was at our hotel at Peace Park. They had a bunch of bikes out there, and some of them were e-bikes that you could rent, and it was pretty sick.
Yeah, I think that's the way.
In Salt Lake, we got electric scooters, but those aren't quite as tight.
Oh, those bird things.
Yeah.
Still a good time though.
But it's still rad. Yeah, it's still
Totally.
cooler out there, and it's an app that lets you use it. I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah.
All right, so what's next for Michelle Parker? What do we got on the docket?
Well, been waiting for this next season of Originate to release. It'll be season 3, so that's coming out pretty soon. This year, I like kind of floated around. I worked with Warren Miller. I worked with TGR. That was my first time ever there with TGR. I was really hyped on that. I worked with Nexus, this first of its kind, I believe. It was all female crew, so like every cinematographer is a woman, every photographer is a woman, all the athletes are women. That was really empowering. That was super cool to like be out there like, whoa, we're making a movie and there's no, like, we're just doing it. It was so cool. So that was really fun. Look out for that one. And then I worked with Coco, Colleen Ballet-Baz on her movie. It's like kind of more of a French women's film, which was really fun. So yeah, 4 projects coming out this year. Really interesting working with Warren Miller too. There's a lot of history there. They've been making.
He's still alive?
He's not, but the company still is in existence. And we filmed for his 73rd film. So they've been making movies since 1949. I think we have Warren to thank for like the film industry in our sports. Like that's pretty cool. So lots of projects coming out. As far as the summertime, this is the first summer that I'm kind of like leaning into chilling out a little bit more and not having so much on my plate. I tend to be a bit of a workaholic and say yes to everything, but I'm learning personal boundaries, which is really powerful. I am still like, I think often people think that like as athletes, you don't like work that hard, but there's a lot of 9-to-5 days that I put in and I keep myself super busy, whether that's organizing our events or, working with different sponsors, whatever it is. Like, yeah, it's a full-time job. In the future, I think I'm starting to put proposals in for projects in the future, and that's really exciting too. I kind of need a pause though to like get that inspiration again. Would love to make an all women's film, and yeah, good things are happening. It's been fun.
4 projects. That's a lot on the plate right there.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna take this year off and like chill out, and then like I didn't. I just like doing stuff, and that's a good sign. Like when you have so much fun doing what you're doing, like I love filming. Like that is so cool to create something and to connect with the cinematographer and be like, "Hey, you want this turn there?" Like, yeah, I'll do my best and style it out, whatever. Like I love it so much.
That's awesome. Congratulations on all your success and everything. And we always ask our guests, do you want to throw out any thank yous?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my parents, my mom and dad, Greg and Luann, and my brother, Johnny. My family's been my rock this entire time. They've always been supportive. Really, really psyched on them. Thanks to Aaron. He's also super supportive and has helped me succeed and definitely lifts me up. Find yourself a man that lifts you up, or a woman, or whatever it is. Like, just that's a good, important part of being in a relationship, I think. And he certainly does that for me. And then all of my sponsors, Arc'teryx, Red Bull, Black Crows, Darn Tough, Anon. There's a lot, but yeah, they've all been specialized. Like, thanks y'all so much. It's been a wild and long and fun ride.
Incredible. I want to say, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on to our show. Where can people find you if they want to connect on social or anything like that?
On social, we've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, TikTok. I think it's all at MYSHELL Parker, PARKER.
Amazing. I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for everything you've done and continue to do for your sport. And we really appreciate chatting with you. It's been super fun.
Thank you. I appreciate what y'all are doing, creating space. You're helping people be really vulnerable and sharing really important stories. And yeah, I've cried many times listening to it and laughed my ass off and felt inspired. So y'all are doing it right. Keep it up.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for having a skier on the show too.
Yeah, no worries.
It's been an honor.
Well, appreciate you and appreciate everybody that listens and tunes in each and every week. You guys kick ass. And we will see you next week. Over and out from the bomb hole.